Koop's administration. So this is a very special night for St. Tammany Parish, and we'll be discussing a little bit of that in a little while. But before I get started again, once again, Mike, congratulations, and looking forward to working with you as the councilors. Looking forward to working with you. First thing we'll do is we'll go, I think, Mr. Taladano, you have a gentleman that you would like to introduce for the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, sir.
You want that to go first, or the invocation?
No, I called on you, so that's the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. Once again, we're very pleased to have one of our underachiever young men, which is an understatement, another great young man. I'm going to ask Charlie Harold to step forward. Charlie is going to lead us in the pledge tonight. Charlie and his family lives in Abita Springs. His mom and dad are Brandon and Celeste Harold. Brandon, as you know, is one of our great school board members here in St. Tammany Parish. Charlie has two siblings, Clark and Maddie. His attendance at school is with the Abita Elementary School. He's considered by the staff and thought of as one of the great young men, future leaders of this parish, very respected by his administration, the school teachers, as well as his students. He's a great baseball player, and my note said that he is an RBI champion, so immediately I thought that was runs batted in. I thought he had a lot of runs batted in. Someone alerted me to the fact that he is, not only is he a baseball player outside, but he's a baseball player inside. RBI baseball champion is a video game. So I'm thinking, you know, man, a young guy has a lot of runs batted in, but first straight out. He's a very talented young man. He likes to write stories. His teachers say that he's an excellent writer. We're very pleased to have you here, Charlie, and if you would, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And Charlie is one of these young men that makes this parish great. Thank you for being here, young man.
Ms. O'Brien.
Well, I'm very pleased to introduce one of the pastors, one of my pastors at Church of the King, Pastor Randy Craighead, who's a senior executive pastor there. I've known Pastor Craighead for a long time. I had the privilege of teaching one of his children when I was a school teacher at at North Lake Christian School. And he's one of the people that prayed with me, did campaign prayer before campaign planning a long time ago. And those guys have prayed with me many, many times. We're praying for y'all. I want y'all to know that. So anyway, Pastor Craighead, thank you so much for starting off our new administration and our new year.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. I think I have a lot to live up to with Mr. Charlie over here. That was amazing. Quite a resume. All right, let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening on the 16th day of January 2020 for the opening session of the St. Tammany Parish Council under the new leadership of the newly elected Mayor President Mike Cooper, we are soberly reminded from Scripture in 1 Timothy 2 to pray for our governmental leaders. The Scripture says, first of all, that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and a peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. As we pray for our leaders, the Scriptures tell us that we, the populace, might lead quiet and peaceable lives. I know this is the heart of everyone in this room and even those beyond these walls. Here in this first month of a new decade, we pray for this parish council as they embark on a courageous journey of legislative opinion, conviction, and rule while seated in these chambers. We pray for strength and wisdom and courage. And Father, we pray for their protection too. Father, protect their minds and their emotions and their spirits. Undergird them and guard them with your grace and your mercy and your goodness and your kindness. We thank you for their leadership, their character, and their integrity, emblems that have hallmarked their lives and persona. May those virtues be shining beacons of light and hope and distinction of their leadership throughout their tenure on this council. And Father, we thank you for the privileges we enjoy living in a country where its government esteems and upholds democracy, it engenders free speech, it guarantees due process, and acknowledges our inalienable rights, supports the freedom of religion and civil liberties for all. It is with this prayerful mindset and reverential context that we lift up these faithful servants to you. May your spirit and anointing rest upon them as in the days of old, when the great lawgiver Moses, when he cried out to you, "If your presence does not go with us, do not bring us up from here." And Heavenly Father, we ask that your presence permeate the lives of each council person, these chambers, and this great parish. May it ever be so. And in humility and prayerful adoration, we offer this prayer for these servants and representatives of the people's choice. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pastor. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean? Mr. Fitzgerald? Ms. Casabon? Mr. Toledano? Mr. Tanner? Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Lorino?
Here.
Mr. Canulette? Mr. Smith, District 9? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Stefanczyk? Mr. Bender? Mr. Airy? Mr. Smith, District 14. You have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we get started, I'd like to take opportunity to welcome Ms. Casabon. Welcome aboard. Mr. Davis, thank you. Mr. Smith, and also Mr. Airy. Thank you very much. I know this council is looking very forward to working with you, as we are with the administration, and welcome aboard. Thank you. First thing we'll do is public comments. I'll just say a few things. Public comments, a 3-minute time limit is established for each member of the public wishing to speak for or against an item on the agenda, except appeals. So anyone wishing to speak on any item that we have other than appeal, it's a 3-minute time limit. When we get to the appeals, we have a little different set of rules. We have a 10-minute statement from both sides. Then we have a 3-minute rebuttal, and then a 2-minute conclusion. And we follow those very close. So we'll get into that. I know we have a few appeals, and we have a lot of people here on a couple of those. And we'll get to that in just a few minutes. The next thing we'll do is we'll have the election of the council officers. Number 1, CS number C-6204, resolution to appoint a chairman of the parish council for the calendar year 2020. Yes, sir, Mr. Stefanczyk. Thank you. Miss O'Brien jumped you, so thank you. And she's much prettier, so we'll go right to her. But thank you. Thank you. Motion to close, and nomination is closed. So can we please, we need a second to that? Second, Mr. Smith. And so can we please vote? Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion to appoint also, yes. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk by acclamation, second by Mr. Canulette. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Please vote. You got it?
Mr. Airy? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I know you did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Try to do a little better than last year. I learned a little better, mate. Thank you, Steve. Number 2, CS number C-6205, resolution to appoint a vice chairman of the parish council for the calendar year 2020. Open it up. Yes, sir.
Councilman Reichert Toledano for vice chair.
Motion by Mr. Bender for Riker Toledano. Second by Mr. Davis. Motion to close by Mr. Canulette.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bender. Please vote. No. Oh, I'm sorry, you got to do it yet. I'm always ready to vote on it. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Move to approve the nomination by acclamation.
Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Davis to approve by acclamation. Please vote. Mr. Davis.
Mr. Airy, our buttons are really, really picky. You just need to hit it one time and not touch it again. That's what's happening with the button. So I have that you did vote yay, though. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Jake, don't pay any attention to anybody telling you. Just do it, buddy. Thank you. Mr. Toledano?
Thank you very much, and thank my fellow councilmen. It's a pleasure to serve, it's an honor to serve, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you again.
Thank you. We'll go to presentations. Presentation number 1, presentation to Mandeville Family Reunion. Ms. O'Brien, we're going to make a little change up here. By the time you get there, we'll be squared away. Come on, Riker, let's go. You don't need all that stuff. He's holding it up.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's always such an honor and privilege to recognize people in my district who do extraordinary things for the community. And I just wanted to recognize the Mandeville Family Reunion for the great work they've been doing for quite a few years. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the organization. Mandeville Family Reunion was started in 2011 by a few people that thought they needed to have an event to bring the community together, a way to connect with people and families who have been here for generations, moved away, live here now, and for families that have just moved here. Their cause is to promote community, support the military, first responders, and even improving the cemeteries. Their mission statement has been that Mandeville is a community that is populated by diverse groups whose common bond is the love for Mandeville's scenic lakefront. By setting aside a day where families and friends can come together to celebrate the essence of Mandeville by enjoying a picnic, sampling the cuisine of local restaurants, and enjoying entertainment on the beautiful and historic lakefront, it's their hope that the Mandeville Family Reunion further promotes and enhances a sense of pride and community spirit. They host 2 main events each year. The first is the annual picnic held on the Sunday of every Memorial Weekend. It's a free event that offers live music and allows the citizens to openly picnic on the lakefront for the entire day and helps honor veterans at the same time. The second main event is the Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, where they honor local officers and first responders. They usually include the Mandeville Police Department, the state troopers at Troop L, and the entire Sheriff's Department. those that cannot leave their post to come and sit and eat or have meals delivered to them. This event also raises money to help them buy equipment that their spending budget will just not allow. Now, this year's picnic is going to be on May 24th and promises to bring a ton of fun. Last year, Vince Vance and the Valiants performed, and I was there. He's quite entertaining. They had such a great turnout that he has promised to return again this year with Highway 190 and Street Parade. So with the help of local business sponsors and dedicated residents, they're able to provide events that everyone can enjoy. Whether people currently live in Mandeville or just want to come back and visit, they want people to join and share the spirit of our beautiful, wonderful hometown. So, and I'm going to ask them to tell you a little bit about the luncheon that they provide for the first responders and police too, especially this last one that occurred. It was a very unusual day. I'll let them tell that story.
Hi, this is going to be our 9th reunion in May, and this past September the 20th, we had our 7th annual Law Enforcement and First Responder Appreciation Day. It was the first time that we actually had a luncheon. Normally, we have a picnic behind City Hall, but we decided to get our guys and girls out of the heat and bring them into an air-conditioned building, and all local restaurants provided food for them. We had a great turnout from the Sheriff's Department, Mandeville Police, Mandeville Fire Department, Troop L. And unfortunately, this year we had a very catastrophic event. Mandeville Police, Vinnie Liberto was killed about an hour after our event ended on that day. And we hope to continue in his name and all law enforcement's name just to show them thank you for all they do for us, and that's what that is for. And we also want to say thank you to Mayor Donald Villery for allowing the very first Mandeville family reunion to happen. He graciously said, yes, let's do this. Let's get Mandeville involved. And we're going on year 9. Thank you.
So given the horrific occurrence of that day, it was so good that those people had experienced the love and support of the entire community, and they had to look back at that and say, you know, this is horrible, but you know, our community is behind us. So for everything they do, we have a certificate. St. Tammany Parish government desires to recognize the Mandeville Family Reunion for their dedication to bringing the Mandeville community together. We appreciate their cause, which is to promote community, support our military and first responders, and their efforts in improving our local cemeteries. The commitment and dedication of this group is greatly appreciated by all the citizens of St. Tammany Parish. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maureen, you might want to ask the mayor if he wants to get in that picture there. I think he would like that.
And our parish president,
Yes,
I told
yes.
him. So y'all, we're going to face this way. Take my glasses off.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen.
Oh, thank y'all. Y'all do a great job. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for all y'all do. Thanks so much. Y'all do great work.
Ms. O'Brien, you have one presentation to Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. This is a special presentation for a young man that was up here with me about 5 or 6 years ago. He was a lot shorter then, though. Daniel was a junior council member in my first term in office, and I was so excited to hear about his accomplishments. But currently, he's a senior at Fontainebleau High School in Mandeville. He's just a very active guy. He's been a member of the wrestling team for 2 years, earned certifications in CPR by the Red Cross and American Heart Association, as well as a lifeguard and National Emergency Medical Responder. And honestly, I could go on and on and on, but we have a lot of accomplishments that's on this plaque. So I'm going to transfer to this, but I did want you to know that he was a senior at Fontainebleau. But Daniel's being recognized because he has earned the recognition of Eagle Scout, or the rank of Eagle Scout. So this is very specific because there's a lot of great things that you've accomplished. So we have St. Tammany Parish Council Certificate of Recognition to Daniel Smith. The Parish Council desires to acknowledge the youth of this parish for their positive achievements and accomplishments. In particular, those who choose to remain in school, participate in their religious convictions or morally and community conscience, and actively pursue productive lifestyles. With the constant media exposure given to negative youth behavior, it's time we acknowledge the younger generation of this parish who are honest, law-abiding, and promote positive attitudes. The Parish Council is proud to recognize a young man who has not been overcome by negative peer pressure, one who knows that perseverance and commitment can achieve goals. Daniel has served as an assistant senior patrol leader, Order of the Arrow Troop representative, patrol leader, and currently serves as an assistant scoutmaster for Troop 85. Daniel's love of animals inspired his Eagle Scout project, which consisted of building 30 dog beds for the St. Tammany Parish Animal Shelter. His greatest achievement thus far has been as an active member of Boy Scouts of America Troop 85, where he has completed the requirements worthy of the rank of Eagle Scout, which is a very rare thing, as I'm sure you all know. So the Parish Council and St. Tammany government recognizes Daniel Smith for earning the rank of Eagle Scout with Boy Scout Troop 85. Congratulations, we are very, very proud of you.
I know.
Very accomplished, but very shy, apparently. Well, you come here. And Molly, Dad, y'all want to come up for the picture? We like to have the parents in these pictures because, trust me, nobody gets to be an Eagle Scout without a lot of help and support from the parents. So let's give a round of applause for the parents also.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Next one, we'll have a presentation by Quiana Wiggins from the U.S. Census Bureau regarding the Census Complete Count Initiative. Mr. Smith, just for a heads up for everyone in the audience, Mr. T.J. Smith, we have two Smiths on the council now, so I have to be a little bit more direct, but TJ heads up our census work group and for the council, and we're going to get into it, and I think for the next few months we're going to have a presentation because this is so important. But I'm going to let Mr. Smith, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I'd like him to comment on it before we get moving. TJ?
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Thank you, Chairman Ravino. As he stated, this process that we've embarked upon, don't have to reiterate to most of you that how significant it is. And so in an effort to utilize this time to speak to our public, not just the ones who are here, but in general, to try and drive that message home about the importance of being counted in this upcoming census process, which begins, I think, in May. We have formed what's called a Complete Count Committee, which is comprised of individuals from all walks of life and professions throughout the parish of St. Tammany, and we have asked our regional specialists to come this morning and just kind of give us an update as to where we are at this point in time in that whole process. Ms. Quiana Wiggins.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. So we are 76 days away from the census. So the census actually in the Constitution is written as April 1st. But we know the great United States is way too big to count everybody on one day. So we start on March 12th, and that's when the count will start. So I'll need people like Daniel and the pastor who gave that awesome prayer and Charlie to help us get our people counted. So Charlie, let's use him as an example. He left, but we're going to still use him as an example. Charlie will be almost 18 by the next time the census comes around in 2030. But we want Charlie to have all of the benefits from the government throughout those 10 years. If we don't count him and other children like him, they won't get the benefits. You'll lose out on Head Start, on school lunch, on roads, on EMS, on police. All of that funding is through the census. What is the census? It matters because it's how we get our congressmen and how we get our money from the government. We all pay tax. We all should pay taxes. We all pay taxes, and how the government disseminates that through the states is through the count. That's why the count is so important. Louisiana lost in the 2010 census. We lost so bad, we lost the congressman. We lost money and power. We currently only have 6 congressmen. Why is California so awesome? Because they have so many people there. So that makes California great, not just California, Texas, New York, and Florida. And guess what else they do? They count their people. In Louisiana, we do not. I am a Louisiana native. I graduated from Dillard and Tulane University. My husband works for Chevron, so we're very familiar with the North Shore. And because he won't eat the lunch I make for him, he always uses y'all restaurants. So we need the count to occur because it is very, very, very important. But what I need right now is for people to talk about the count. Everyone counts. That's our message. You do not have to be a citizen because everyone counts. Why? Why you don't have to be a citizen? Because whether you're a citizen or not, you're here and you're utilizing the services. And we want to get the money for everyone that's here utilizing those services. Because, for example, say you have a Head Start program and you have it funded for 500, because that's only 500 children were counted, but 1,500 shows up. So that's about 1,000 early childhood education we can't provide to our children. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that everyone is counted. Did you hear my staccato? Everyone is counted. Everyone is counted because we are 76 days away from the census count. And I have everybody in St. Tammany working. What's different about the census? It is not on paper. It is online. And we had a meeting today with our national group, the United States Department of Commerce. And there's a nasty rumor out there that you have to download a census app. You do not have to download a census app. That is a lie. It is a website that's accessible on any device that accesses data. So what you'll get in the mail is a card with a website and a password. And you go online and you fill out everybody. 10 simple questions, 10 simple, easy questions. But you have to make sure you do it for everyone in your household. We partnered with the St. Tammany Parish Library System. Kelly LaRocca, y'all have a gem in her. She is absolutely awesome. Every last one of y'all branches are on board, and they are prepared to assist people get online if they don't have access. They're even volunteering to train our census workers in April and May. And talking about workers, we are paying $15.50 an hour to be a census taker. I have flyers on the side. If you're interested, you must be a citizen to work for the federal government, not to take the census, but to get a job. So Daniel, if you're going to be 18, we encourage you to apply. Make them work, mom and dad, and earn some money. You get paid every week. You have to work a minimum of 4 hours. And it's much better that the community works in their community. Because what's going to happen, if we don't get enough people hired in St. Tammany Parish, we'll just import them out from other parishes. But that affects our count because people feel more comfortable with the people in their neighborhood, right? And so we want people to take that. But I really don't want you to have a census taker. I want you to take my census, because what happens on March 12th through the 20th, you get the card in the mail, and we want you to take the questionnaire. If you don't take it then, March 16th through the 24th, you'll get a reminder letter. If you don't take it then what'll happen? The census taker will knock on your door. And they'll do that from March 26th through April 3rd, April 8th through the 16th, April 20th through the 27th, and then that's it. So we want to make sure that St. Tammany Parish receives her fair share, her rightly count. We want you guys to apply. We're accepting applications right now to be census takers, because obviously we say everybody should do it. They don't. So we need people to be census takers. And we want everybody in the community to talk about it. Pastor, I want you to preach about it from the pulpit. You won't be IRS fined. So if we're talking about politics, because guess what? We are not political. The United States Census Bureau is a non-political group. We adhere to the Constitution, and that's it. I swore an oath to the Constitution to keep all of your information safe under Title 13. So no one's going to sell it. No one's going to give it to ICE. No one's going to give it to the sheriff, the DEA, the chief, whomever. We don't give it to HUD. We don't care. You have 19 people in your house, but we need all 19 people in your house counted, because we do care, because that means there's a housing issue, and St. Tammany could receive some type of federal funding to alleviate this housing issue. But we don't care enough to tell your landlord so you can get evicted. That's not our goal. And so we just want to make sure that we count everyone. It's very serious. We have the Causeway. They're going to display some signage for us starting February 1st. And I gave Carlton some fun little facts, things to splash up there. One of them will be shape your future. The future is yours to shape. And if we don't maintain or gain our current population, then it's shame on us, because I want Louisiana to be there for my children. And because I chose to stay here, as you can see, I'm very charismatic and bright. I could live anywhere, and my husband does not live here. And so I told him, I said, babe, he's not from here. I said, babe, we're staying in Louisiana. He's like, are you crazy? And I was like, no, because I'm going to steal from Martin Luther King. I have a dream that Louisiana can be better than what she is. And I adhere to that dream, that we can all be as one and good. And everybody can't serve on the council or serve to protect us or save us. But guess what everybody can do? They can be counted, because that's your way of serving and giving back to the United States and your parish. And that's all I have, if you have any questions.
Mr. Smith.
And great presentation, Kiana. For the folk who are not here tonight and cannot access that information you have over there, would you just mind giving out, for the job opportunity piece, the website address that they can access?
Yes, it's 2020census.gov/jobs.
Once again?
2020 census.gov/jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wiggins, as I'm sitting here looking in the audience, I see representatives from the Chamber, North Shore Business Council, Ms. Pregonis over there on the side, and I'm sure that all of those can get that information out and probably would be willing to meet with you at some time to get this information out.
Yes, sir.
Because it's so important to St. Tammany Parish. There's a lot of other people that have websites out. So as I said, you need to come back and update us, because people are watching at home now also. So
I definitely will.
This is getting out, but we need the community to do that. And as Mr. T.J. Smith said, that, you have a lot of people behind you. We'll have some more. But you are a great person to do this job. And I just want to say thank you.
You just don't want to know the life I've been living lately.
I just.
But I am committed. I'm oppressed toward the mark of my high calling.
Well, if I had a business, I needed someone to go out and get it going, you'd be the first person that I would call. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your time. Not every municipality is encouraging to the census, I know. And so I want to thank you guys for embracing me and the census. And so that's not a tall feat. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you.
Well, if that doesn't get you fired up about the census, I don't think anything will. Before we get into the appointments, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Mr. Mike Cooper, Parish President, just to say a few words. And yes, sir, you go wherever you want.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here this evening, standing before you, your honorable parish councilman, as your parish president. I very much look forward to working with each and every one of you for the next 4 years. As I said and stated in my inauguration speech on Monday, I want to open the lines of communication to our parish councilmen, our other elected leaders at all levels of government that we work with, but most importantly, I want to open up the lines of communication to our citizens. I intend to do so having an open door policy, working with each and every one of you all, and keeping our citizens informed of what's going on in our parish. The voters of St. Tammany on November 16th sent a clear message that they wanted a new direction and fresh perspective in their leadership. That includes the parish president, that includes the parish council, and I think together we can provide that. I want to particularly thank my wife, Catherine, who has stood beside me. Stand up, Catherine. She's sitting in the front row. Has stood beside me for the last 11 years and through my terms as mayor of Covington and through the campaign and, of course, through the transition to this point. I also want to thank the members of my now administration, the directors that serve each and every one of the departments here in parish government, that for the last 2 months during our transition has allowed our transition team to meet with them. They were forthcoming in providing information to the transition team so that I would have a playbook and be able to get off the ground running when we walked into the offices here at Koop Drive Monday afternoon. And I want to thank, like I said, each and every one of our directors that provided that. But particularly, and most importantly, getting the inauguration ceremony on schedule, on point. With the weather coming, we had Plan B, of course. The original inauguration ceremony was scheduled to be on the front steps of the Justice Center in Covington, and with the weather indicating that there may be rain that day, and of course there was intermittently, but it would have been inclement to be on the front steps of the Justice Center. So 7 o'clock Monday morning, Facilities Director Bruce Crouch and others on the team went to Plan B and moved the event to the Furman Auditorium in Covington. And I think you'll agree that that was a wonderful event, a very great event for us to get off on the right foot as we move forward in the next 4 years. So I want to thank everybody that's been a part of getting us to this point, and I look forward to serving with you in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, we'll go to appointments. Number 1, resolution to appoint David Cressy to the Board of Commissioners for the Florida Parish Human Service Authority. What I would like to have is a motion to override and appoint Mr. Cressy. I'm sorry. Suspend the rule, yes. Motion by Mr. Canulette, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Number 2, resolution to reappoint Bill Davis, Marty Meyer, Oscar Hernandez, and Dr. William Wainwright to the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Development District. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk to suspend the rules and appoint, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 3, resolution to, oh, Mr. Smith, Mr. TJ Smith? Oh, you're just getting in line, okay. Resolution to reappoint Catherine Diamont, Mark Myers, and Patty English to the Board of Commission for the Tourism and Convention Commission. Mr. Smith, TJ Smith.
Reappoint, I don't know if we have to suspend or not on this one. We do?
Yes,
I
sir.
move to suspend the rules and reappoint.
Motion by Mr. TJ Smith, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote. Mine disappeared. I got it.
No. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Number 4, resolution to reappoint Michael Lorino, Steve Stefancic, and Christopher Massengill to the Board of Commissioners for the Regional Planning Commission. Motion to suspend by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Suspender. Well, yes, sir, and second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Normally we go right into the consent calendar at this time. But Mr. Fitzgerald asked me, he has an appeal number 5 on the agenda that he would like to have moved up because he realizes there's a lot of people here and it's kind of been just about settled, I believe. So he's asking to have it moved up. So can I have a motion to move it up? Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. I'll take care of it for you. Number 5.
No, number 3.
Number 3, I'm sorry. I'm only reading what they gave me.
Mr. Fitzgerald and Ms. Casabon. Well, I can't change it, I already hit the button. Are you both affirmative? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. All righty. Okay, we'll go to number 3. Marcia Miller, Stanley, Stelly, Roy, and Kitty Honeycutt et al. Appealing the Zoning Commission approval on November 13, 2019 to rezone 0.33 acres located south of South Street, east of Jefferson Street, being 19504 Short Street, Covington, from A-3 Suburban District to A-3 Suburban District and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
We've talked with all parties concerned, and I think we have representatives here for both sides. So I think we should proceed with that.
Okay. All righty. Ms. Miller?
Good evening, I'm Marcy Miller.
Hold on for me 1 second, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Miller, you have 10 minutes to, or anyone else that you have, wants to talk. I see I have a few cards before we get started. Would you like to share the time with all of these?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Thank
you
you.
have 10 minutes total, okay? So I'll stop it while they get ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please go ahead.
My name is Marcy Miller, and I own about 60-plus acres right down the street from the subject property that we're discussing. I have owned it for a long, long time. It has been in my family a long time, and I do intend to try to improve the property one day soon. I'm fooling with a lot of mitigation items and issues right now, but I just feel that putting a manufactured housing is not going to increase our values or help our area out. And I strongly feel that we need to increase and help our area and not decrease it. And studies and past projects have shown that putting a trailer or manufactured housing does not particularly help the area. So I'm asking that we, that we not go with this, because I feel like after one person is okayed this and change this zoning, then it's going to continue. And I just feel like there's a lot of work being done over in St. Tammany, and I just think that anything that we can increase our values and help out our area would be most important. And so I'm particularly against this. And I've paid my taxes all the years, which I have, and I don't want to do anything with the acreage that I have to decrease. Let everybody know that. I want to one day increase everything and make the area much better. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Roy Honeycutt? Yeah. Thank you, sir.
I'm
Please
very
state
grateful
your-
for
please-
Mr.
please state your name.
Roy
I'm
Honeycutt. I live at 71567 Jefferson Avenue. It's about 2.5 blocks from the situation here. And like I say, I'm grateful to speak behind Ms. Miller for her approaching this like we are. I'm going to try to say it quick. First of all, I'm a native of that area my whole life. I go 5 generations of my family there. Back in the 80s, when I was younger, I purchased a double wide, one of the finest, and I brought it on land, family land, and placed it. And the home builder at the time, who was building the fine houses that were being built in there, the brick houses, and that was Mr. Billy Thompson, the last one to use a hammer in our community, built good houses. He approached my father and myself about the trailer, and he asked us, why did we put a trailer where he's putting nice houses? My father spoke to me, and we talked about it. We sold this double wide. After we was in a little while, you just don't sell it quick, you know, it was a trailer. And at that time, in like 1980, there was a lot of people didn't want trailers in the parish. And it was a big discussion. We moved that trailer on and sold it to Alan and Karen Oman. They took it up to Franklinton. I couldn't afford a home at the time, so I moved in with my parents, my wife, and we started our family there in the same area I'm living in today, in a family home. I speak on the awarding of this situation. I got to say it was posted in a dead-end street to where it's hard for people to see when you don't drive down the street. That was, I don't know, I don't want to throw blame, but the parish needs to make it a little more obvious for the neighbors to see. And I'm a watchdog in there. I always have been. Mr. Richard, you can tell him. Martha, you can tell him. But I try to do what's right in my community. My neighbors are my family. And I don't want no harm between none of my neighbors, right? But anyway, back to where I'm going. The parish came together and we decided there wouldn't be no mobile homes or fixtures of that sort at that time. We would only allow homes built the way Mr. Billy Thompson built homes, you know. And that's been the rule of it. No trailers have never been put there. There's been 3 or 4 trailers moved out. None in the past probably 10 years, but there's 1 trailer remaining in our area. And it grandfathers in. And I had conversation today with one of the gentlemen from the council. He pointed out where one's at still, and I rode over in that area today. It's a shotgun that was built back in the 40s, and it's sitting in the woods at the end of a dead-end street off of Sunshine Avenue, which all that's neighbors too. And we've done everything we can do with neighbors to try to make our area worth more, not to go backwards. And in the deciding factors of this being approved a month or 2 ago, there was comment on the floor about some in-repair homes in the area. Well, this is an old area, a rare area in St. Tammany Parish, and that's coming from people on this council that know that. It's the best area, I'd like to say. we good. They yielding to me.
Oh, well,
But-
you have to tell me that. I
and
just
so,
want to
yeah,
make sure, I
and
want to make
so
sure
they
they
know
get
I'm
their time.
long-winded.
That's fine. You
And-
go
and
right.
I say that-
I'll put them down. Go ahead.
With the ill repair, and like I say, I'm inherited too. I've inherited through my family, and I own the old family home, and it's a beautiful place. It's a landmark. We keep the streets clean. The parish don't have to pay my streets to keep them clean. We pick the trash up. We need them to cut the grass some, but we cut grass in that area too, and I've done it as a boy with a bush knife. And I still keep up from Caxborn down to the curve on 3rd Street. Teach my grandchildren that. But whenever we take and have a situation like this, a neighbor, and we try to meet our neighbors when they come in. My parents brought cakes to the people when they were new, and I'm not that generous, I guess, but I apologize for not meeting with the new people, you know. And I know most of them, I try to. But to do this, the council stated there were some in-repair homes, and they used that as weight to make the decision to put the home they want to allow there, and they did approve it. And the ill repair homes comes from families that had inherited this over 5 generations. Goes back a century ago. And it's still in the family. And these people are retired. You know, some of them are elderly, and they can't afford they can't afford it, but they can't be here tonight. I got 3 families that live adjoining to the land. 2 of them adjoining to it, one across the street from it, live in some of the brick homes that were built right there, Mr. Billy built, that can't be here tonight because of their health. And they signed appeals here, you know, and it's like our plea and our prayer is to take and not let this go through and retract it. And also, I pray, and I do it on the behalf of the neighbors, that the parish give consideration strongly to refund the $600 that was given to give the the application to apply to change this, to put this type of thing there. And amongst the neighbors, we talked, and from day one, I brought it to the council people, some of them, about refund it before it goes anywhere. You know, these people work a living, and they're my family, I say. They're my neighbors. We look out for each other in our area. And for this system, my government, our government, allowed someone to bring an application, now, council members, this put the burden on y'all. I would look at it, because what I'm fixing to say is going to have to throw it to y'all. We have elected representation in our districts to where when something comes up, and this came up, it was an issue, that it should have been caught by a councilman, but because the councilman maybe wasn't contacted good enough from the place that took the check, one of these buildings around here that takes the check and the application, we need to work a system to where before that money is received, that council member needs to know. So he can maybe involve himself into it and have the knowledge to say, let me check with the neighbors before we take your $600. And I pray to the council and to the parish government, Mr. Cooper, that refund that neighbor of mine, who I don't want no hard feelings, and none of the neighbors want hard feelings, her $600. I yield the minute and a half to anybody else from my district that would like to say something, but I'm grateful to be able to speak on this floor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak? We have a minute and 30 seconds. Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm going to take 15 seconds of his time. Come on. I didn't mention something, and he did.
You go ahead.
I didn't mention this, but we have a gentleman here, Jared Semino, who is an architect, home builder in this parish, lives across the street from me. He will meet with the people if they'd want to meet with Jared. Jared's standing at the back door right there in the short sleeve shirt at a reasonable price, a fair price. He will build a cottage-style home for you, probably for what you'd pay for what you want to put there. As a neighbor, he will do that, he said. And so I wanted to, and I called him not knowing he would be here, and he'd give me the permission to say that. Hardy, go ahead. Thank you.
You better hurry up, sir.
Yeah, well, I was just going to state I'm
You go right ahead.
opposed to the change.
And your name?
William Rogers.
Okay.
But I also second Roy's thing about refunding their money. $600 is a lot, especially when you're trying to build a home. So.
All right, you take your time. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I
Thank you.
appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, my name is Mary Stelly. I live at 71562 Jefferson Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that I really don't want the trailers to be a precedent in the neighborhood, to set a precedent. We have a big piece of property about 2 houses down from where I live that they're trying to sell, and I don't want it to become a trailer park. And this could set a precedent for that. And that's all I really wanted to say.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay, 10 seconds. I don't think there's anybody else. Seeing no one else. Mr. Fitzgerald, I don't see any cards of for anyone that wishes to speak on it. Yes, sir. If I have a card, that's fine.
Okay.
None. Yes. Yes, right. 10 minutes.
Hi, I'm Kim James.
Hold on one second for me, ma'am. All right, started. Go ahead.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kim Jameson. I own the property in question. A little confused here with how this works.
You
so
go ahead.
Anything else I need to tell y'all before I
No,
start?
ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So yes, we put the application in. You know, we did go before the commission, and of course, in the letter that was given to the commission at that meeting, the staff themselves said they do not object to the request, considering that it adheres to the petition property's future land use designation. A precedent has already been set, because I'm not talking about a mobile home that is actually on Sunshine. There is a mobile home within 500 feet of our house on Jefferson. I don't know what year it was built and how long it's been there, but then that makes me wonder, what happens if something devastating happens to that family? Since they're grandfathered in, but are they not going to be allowed to replace their home if something happens? Or are they not going to be allowed to get a permit to replace their home? I mean, the precedent's already been set. I'm not talking about bringing in something old, something trashy. I'm talking about bringing in something that's new, that we will take care of and keep. We have looked at stick-built homes. We have looked at modular homes. And sorry, it's really no one's business, but this is us. This is an affordable option for us. It's called an affordable home. And it's what we can do. We have nothing against our neighbors. We did go to our immediate neighbors and ask, my landlord included. Didn't have a problem with it, said that, it's your land, do what you want with it. The man behind us, it's your land, do what you want with it. He refused to sign the petition because that's how he feels. One neighbor right next to us, one of the ladies that has since signed the petition, we went to her originally, and she had said, do what you want with it. I don't know what changed her mind, but she has. The one neighbor that did, that directly sits next to us, he was against it. Now, we didn't ever speak to him. He's sick. We had originally spoken to his son, and he didn't have a problem, but as we were leaving, and this is a couple of years ago, actually, he had to come run at us and say, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke because my father does not want that. But no, we did not go to everyone in the neighborhood. We just went to our immediate neighbors. We did not think it was going to turn into this, because it is just a nice blue-collar neighborhood. We love our neighborhood. We have not met all of our neighbors, but we do want to have our home that we will take care of. And, you know, I just don't see there becoming an issue with the trailer park. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Bob Jameson. I own the property too that's in question. We came before the zoning commission. We stated our case. We told them the same things my wife just said about why we want the property, why we want to put a manufactured house there. One other lady, she already spoke, was the only one that thought it was important enough at that time to come and state their case. That's what this is about, everybody being able to have a say-so. The zoning commission listened to everybody. They asked some questions. They talked to people. They thought that putting a brand-new home there, mounted on concrete, with a demobilization, so it becomes a part of the land, just as if it were stick-built, the only difference being it comes on wheels and is mounted, would in no way detract from the neighborhood. It wouldn't decrease any property values. In fact, it would probably help a little bit because it would be brand new. A manufactured house is a house that is built in a controlled environment. It comes in on wheels. It's built to the specifications of the federal HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to their codes, to everything they set forward. A modular home, which is, if I understand it correctly, I'm allowed to put there with nothing more than the correct permits, is built in a controlled environment. It's built, it comes in on wheels. The only difference with that is that it's built to any additional codes that may be for the parish or the city or the state. One other major difference is that the modular home is considerably more expensive. That's kind of where we're at with that part. We don't want to rile anybody up. We just want to have the option of building a home, someplace we can plant flowers, have a fence, let the dog and kid play, that we can call home and live there for the rest of our life. We bought the little piece of land. We just want to make a home. And I hope the other people that are opposing this will understand that we're just trying to make the neighborhood nice like they are. We can't build a stick-built house. I appreciate the offer from the other people, but everything we've looked at, unless they're like generous beyond belief, a stick-built house just isn't our option. So we're hoping that this panel, all you people up here, will take into consideration the Zoning Commission's determination. We're hoping that you'll agree with them, let us have our home. It was mentioned that sometimes the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. It's my opinion that sometimes the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. Our need is to have a home for my family. That's pretty much what I got to say about it. I thank your time. I hope you'll let us have a home.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, now we'll go to the 3-minute rebuttal. Anybody that came up and spoke for the first 10 minutes against this project is welcome to come up and speak for a total of 3 minutes and rebut it. So come on up, sir. Just state your name for the record again.
Roy Honeycutt. For one, the trailer that we talk of, it's not a home that a resident that has been there for 5 generations or longer lives in. It's a rental piece of property that they make a little extra income on. So that they're not going to be in a bind. They have 3 houses on that piece of property, that family. This is a trailer that they just didn't pay to have it moved off. And it'll be there, and I was told by them that when it gets so bad, it will be removed. Now, the next thing, I hate to think about federal government quality houses versus St. Tammany Parish quality houses. St. Tammany has a lot better standard. And you know what, I'm going to end it with that. I'll give anybody else time, but I just wanted to correct the trailer is not a resident lived-in trailer by the landowners. It's a rental. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, come on.
I just want to reiterate that I understand where they're coming from. I totally do. But if one gets approved and Mr. Smith next week wants to put one down the street, I'm sure it's going to come before you all, and you're going to say there's one down the street, so we can approve this one. And once again, what's very important to me is improving the area. There's areas all over St. Tammany that do have some homes in disrepair. I mean, that's life. Some people can afford to maintain more than others. And this particular area has been there a long time. These people have lived there a long time. My father had this ground a long, long time ago. And I just ask that this zoning is not changed, to change this area in a totally different direction, because I believe that's what will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
The land that was sold to the people here was once owned by the gentleman that is appealing it, Mr. Mike Heap. And his health, like she said, his health is bad. You can't talk to him sometimes, is in bad shape. And when I visited with him, he cursed and swore, that do whatever I could do to stop it. And that's when it first was passed. The night it was passed, the next day, he called me, because he thinks I'm supposed to do something. I'm not a rep, but I get caught up in it. But I say that strongly, that he is the prior landowner to it, and his land is still adjoining that land, a square. Then Speedy and Paula, in the 80s, they're bedridden, he is. They strongly disagree with it. If it wouldn't have looked like raining the night, she may have come with a sitter stand at the house, but the weather's not good. She would have spoke. And I'll leave it with that. 15 seconds. Somebody.
You're pretty generous with that time, I know that. You go ahead, sir.
William Rogers. I live just down the street from it. The only reason we didn't come is what Roy talked about, was that sign was put at the very back of the street where nobody goes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. and Miss Jameson, would you come up? Would you like to come up and rebut anything else, say anything else? You have 3 minutes, sir. You got it. You picked it up fast.
They talk about setting a precedent as far as putting a mobile home in there and others coming. I can understand where they would come with that. There's no vacant land in there. They would have to tear something down to put another mobile home there. There's a couple lots that are behind the property he referenced that directly adjoined us. They're landlocked. Somebody would have to put a street in there and the other infrastructure to actually make it to where you could get to that. Once again, we're not trying to destroy their neighborhood. We're trying to build a home for ourselves. We hope that you understand that. We hope you see that this is the best we can do. We want to be neighbors. I'm sorry it came to this. We really had no clue that this kind of opposition would have been there. I hope you'll let us have a home.
Like to say anything? Okay. We'll go. Now we have an opportunity for a 2-minute conclusion, but I think we probably heard just about the whole case, but I will say, if the gentleman in the back wants to come up and start the 2 minutes, you might have a little time to say a little bit more. Yes, sir.
To correct you, but the 2 minutes is a conclusion after the discussions we have up here.
Okay.
So that if we ask any questions
I got you.
of
Okay.
anybody, then they have a chance to respond to
That'll be
that
fine.
at that time.
We'll see how it goes, and we have to go to the other, Mr. Fitzgerald first. David?
Thank you. I've met with most of the parties concerned, and I certainly empathize with the Jamesons. We had a nice meeting with, I had a nice meeting with them Sunday afternoon in their yard. Several things come into play here. The absence of any manufactured housing overlay already in the area. Homes that are in the area are foundationally sound homes. The overall direction of the area and which way it's headed, just in both a physical and connotative manner, when we put a manufactured home in, where never before there has been a zoning allowing that. I feel that our comprehensive zoning plan needs to be meaningful, and to that extent, when we have an area that's zoned a certain way, we should be careful in changing that zoning. The other factor is in a poll of the neighborhood, there was quite a bit of opposition, and not that the majority is always right, but in concert with the present zoning and the present structures in the neighborhood, I think that the right thing to do for the neighborhood and for the parish and for the zoning operation that we have going is to override the zoning, the zoning conclusion and disallow the manufactured home overlay for the lot. I so move.
To override. Dean, Mr. Stavancic.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we are, if we allow this, we are setting a precedent, and it's a different precedent. That house that is, or that trailer that's on there cannot be replaced if something destroys that trailer, if it becomes unusable or is destroyed. So unless they would come in for a zoning change as well. The zoning does not allow, in any of the zoning, there does not allow trailers under existing zoning. So we would be setting a precedent, and I don't think we should do that. I heard some of the people say that we should refund the money. If we started refunding money for everybody who applied for a zoning change, the parish would go broke very quick-like, because that's part of the way that we run this parish, and the Department of Development has to fund itself. If they don't receive the fees, then, and they've already provided service on this, so if they don't receive the fees, then we soon will lose our Department of Development. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I'm going to ask Ms. Riles her opinion on what Mr. Stavancic stated, that if we go ahead and did this, would that be a legal precedent to do that? Or Emily or Carrie, whoever wants to give me that opinion.
Well, certainly a factor that the zoning commission and the council considers is the zoning of the surrounding area. So if you approve a mobile home overlay, I think that it would be reasonable to expect that the next time that there's a mobile home overlay request in that area, that you may see the staff recommending approval because there are similar zoning uses in the area. And that certainly is one of the many factors that the zoning commission and this council may consider moving forward for any future applications in that area. So yes, in short, I agree with Mr. Stavancic.
Okay. Not that I don't, I'd just like to have a legal opinion sometime on it. Mr. Smith, T.J. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, and I very, very hesitantly decide to make these comments. And while I respect and honor the wishes of the representatives from that district, as well as those folks who have come up and expressed their disagreement with this zoning change, I must add this, that in St. Tammany Parish, and being a native, I've seen it all, and all being growth. But in St. Tammany Parish, we have created an environment of regulation that pretty much prohibits an average individual from living in St. Tammany Parish. In the mid-90s, we put together the comprehensive rezoning plan. And one of the components, there were 9 of them, and one of the components that the citizens of St. Tammany Parish, the developers, and everybody else said that they wanted us to look at was affordable housing. Well, here we are now in 2019, and affordable housing and addressing that issue is still where it was in the mid-1990s. And so we kicked that can down the road all these years and decades, and we have not done anything about providing affordable housing for individuals in this parish who want to live in this parish that cannot afford to buy a stick-built home or the conventional home that everybody wants, and nobody wants a mobile home in their backyard, the NIMBY mindset. But until we seriously decide to take a look at that issue, people who work in our service industries, people who do our maintenance and for the government of St. Tammany Parish, people who police this parish, people who work in our medical industry, where are they going to live if they all have to pay $190,000, $250,000, $300,000 to live here? And so I must say, based on that, I'm not going to be able to support the override, because I think we, starting with this group up here, have been negligent in not addressing the question of how we are going to provide affordable housing for all of the citizens who want to live here in St. Tammany Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just simply, I know both sides of this issue. We've had to address this a number of times in my time on the parish council. It sometimes can be very difficult. But I do want to, and I want to be clear that I'm not trying to, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not trying to circumvent what we had heard from a legal standpoint, but I feel the need to say this, okay? I, for example, I intend to allow a mobile home overlay in a piece of my district, okay, that has truly a combination of stick-built homes and mobile homes, okay? That is the makeup of the district. And I understand Mr. Fitzgerald's point, and I understand the people in the audience's point on both sides, but certainly it does bring some bearing to the issue when you have an enormous amount of stick-built and very, very little mobile home, okay? Or the very opposite. You have a lot of mobile home and a good amount of stick-built. It makes it an easier decision, okay? However, I want to be clear because of I have a case coming up. Just because we might vote for a mobile home overlay in the case of the area that I represent does not mean, and I'm just telling you my opinion, I do not believe that that means I have set a precedent by voting for that lot to be allowed to have a mobile home overlay. I don't believe that that means that if another lot comes up and there's a request for a mobile home overlay, I don't think it means that I have to give them a mobile home overlay. And the reason is that block might be very different. They might have 3 stick-built homes and a lot in between them. That makes me feel like a stick-built is more appropriate. So I'm not trying to debate council, but I just want to say for the record, I understand the term precedent in this case, but I think the council and the zoning commission always has the option to make a decision not based upon precedent as a legal requirement. That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Okay, before I make a vote, I just want to say one thing. Mr. T.J. Smith, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think that's something we need to start working on, and I'm committed to do that. And we need to start looking at it, and it's probably, as you said, been way too long, and I agree. But as I sit here right now, I'm looking at a couple that falls under a different circumstance. And for me, how do you rectify that? And I understand exactly what the legal team says, and I understand what Steve said, but to me, there's a couple here that's trying to have a home in St. Tammany Parish, whether it be a stick home or overlay, mobile home, or whatever. But that's their home. That's where they want to live. So it puts you in a trick bag. It's a terrible trick bag to be in, but we're here to do something. So I just wanted to say that about my vote. But anyway, seeing nothing else, please vote.
The motion is to override.
Yes. Yes, override.
Motion passes, 11 yeas, 3 nays, no one absent.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go normally back to where we
Mr.
normally
Marino.
start. Oh, I'm sorry.
We need a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Fitzgerald, we need a resolution.
To resolution?
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald for the resolution, second by Mr. Dean.
And a vote.
Please vote. Voting on the resolution, yes, sir.
Motion passes, 13 yeas, 1 nay, no one absent.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the consent calendar. Any item not pulled from the consent calendar or automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. A majority vote of the entire council, 8 members, is required to adopt the consent calendar. Items that we have pulled for discussion tonight under ordinance for introduction are number 1, ordinance number 6288. Number 2, ordinance number 6292. Ordinance number 16, 6317. Ordinance number 6318, number 17. Resolutions to be pulled. Number 1, C-6208. Number 2, C-6209. Number 3, C-6210. Number 4, C-6211. Number 6, C-6213. Number 9, C-6216. Number 10, C-6217. That's what we have pulled thus far. Mr. Dean? Thank you. Mr. Fitzgerald? Ms. Casabon? Mr. Dale? Thank you. Mr. Tanner? Thank you. Mr. Toledano?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis? Mr. Smith? I'll skip Mr. Canulet. Thank you. Ms. O'Brien? Mrs. Fossick? Mr. Bender? No, sir. Mr. Airy? Mr. T.J. Smith? Thank you. Anything from the administration that you would like pulled that's not being pulled for discussion?
No, sir.
Nothing? Thank you. Anything from legal? Thank you. We have one that I've already included, number 16, ordinance number 6317 from the audience. Is there anything else from the audience that would like to be pulled? Okay. Thank you. Okay, I will in a minute. I need a motion for all the items not being pulled. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. So, everybody in the audience, if you were here on another ordinance that was not pulled, it's been passed and finished, so, you're more than welcome to stay and enjoy the meeting, or go home and have a glass of wine. Okay. Ordinance number 1, ordinance calendar number 6288, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.33 acres from A-3 to A-4 and MHO, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Based on the outcome of the appeal, move to have this stricken from the calendar.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald to pull from the calendar, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Okay, number 2 is ordinance calendar number 6292, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.75 acres from A-2 to A-2 and MHO, Ward 7, District 7. But I think we want to defer this until we handle the second appeal. Is that correct? We need a motion to table. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Thank you. Number 16, ordinance calendar number 6317, ordinance to authorize St. Tammany Parish through the office of the parish president to acquire certain parcel right-of-ways of way and/or servitudes for the Louisiana 1077 to LA 21 Connector Road project. That's in Ward 1, District 1. That would be Mr. Dean.
I didn't ask to pull it.
No, I have somebody from the audience to do it.
But
Okay. Okay. No. I'm just letting them know it's yours. Ms. Wagner.
Good evening. My
Good.
name is Nancy Wagner.
3 minutes, Ragged. Let's go.
I'm sorry.
Wake up. Yes, ma'am.
Last council meeting, Mr. Belisario admonished everybody in the audience to pay attention to how the parish earns its money and how the parish spends its money. That's why I'm speaking on this particular introduction of an ordinance, thanks to his advice. This is authorizing the parish president to spend money without any information contained in this notice. There's one little piece of paper with a sketch on it. There's no information to tell any of you how much this is going to cost or why it's necessary to be done. This connector road is fraught with issues. When Ms. Brister called me to tell me that she had signed the AML ordinance, she told me she felt she was able to do so because there was going to be a roundabout at the tie-in to 1077 from the connector road, and that would take care of things. That made her feel better about it. Well, I don't think another penny should be spent on this road until the parish, especially incoming parish president, has an opportunity to see where all the bond money of $34 million worth of bond money should be spent parish-wide. We need an assessment, we need public hearings, and we need to be able to decide, should this one road take up almost $12 million of that bond issue when it's going to create a traffic nightmare at the tie-in to 1077? One roundabout won't solve anything, and right now the only approval is for a right turn only lane and a dedicated left turn onto this. So spending money at this point to go and get a drainage servitude for a road that's not even finalized, doesn't have a recent traffic study to meet the ordinance to require a traffic study to be done within 1 year, is foolishness. So I would ask that you postpone this or just say no, and do not send this to the parish president and say, go out and spend this money. That's no way to be a wise steward. And as Mr. Belisario said, he said we should all pay attention to how our money's being spent. And we know there's going to be financial crunches coming in the future. So I don't think we need to spend the money, another penny, on this road until it's looked at very, very thoroughly in a parish-wide overview. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Lowen.
Hi, Randy Lowen. Thank you for having me up here. I have to second what Ms. Wagner said. I think she told you correctly about all the points. It certainly, though, does remind me of a situation in my life where I had one of my kids that was 15 years old, and they were about to get a learner's permit to drive a car, and went out to get that, and they said, Dad, let's go pick out a car. I said, well, son, you don't even have your license yet, and Mom and I haven't decided to buy you a car. So you're sort of putting the cart before the horse. And I think that's exactly what you'd be doing here if you pass this resolution. As Ms. Wagner said, you don't know exactly where the road's going to be. This is drainage. If you buy a servitude and the road goes in a different direction, or DOTD puts roundabouts, or maybe the road never happens because it's too expensive and it's fraught with other problems, you've just wasted the time and the money of the parish. So you need to defer this, at least defer it, and put it off for another time when you know what you're buying and you know why you need it and where you need it. So we ask you to at least defer this resolution, and if you have to, just put it off until you know what you really need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Long, do you have any information or that, any cost information, anything that we could have for me? Ms. Gouvion?
Yes, I don't have the cost estimate, the appraisal information, but I can give you some backgrounds
Please,
on this.
please, that would be very helpful. Yes,
I
ma'am.
spoke to Joey Alphonse from our office before tonight's meeting, and he said that the ordinance to allow all of the acquisitions for this connector project went through, or was first on the agenda in May 2018, and it passed. And all of the other properties have already been acquired, have actually already closed for this entire project. This is a 150-foot drainage servitude that was missed on the original acquisitions. And so it is a 50-foot drainage servitude on the property of Reginald O.G. So all the other properties for this project have been acquired and have actually already closed. This is a 50-foot drainage servitude that was missed.
Okay. Did I hear you say that this was, everything else was done in 2018? Was that the date you gave?
The first ordinance to allow the parish president to acquire the property related to this project was first on the agenda in May of 2018.
Okay. And this was the only piece that was left off?
Correct.
Is there any reason why it was left off?
I don't know. I think it was just an oversight.
Okay. Mr. Cooper, did you want to say something to me? Or?
Yes, thank you. Is my mic on?
Yes, sir.
All right. As I stated earlier, the last 2 months, I spent a lot of time during the transition with my transition team meeting with the different departments and directors. Just in the last couple of weeks, I've had an opportunity to look at the agenda, review the material that was provided with the agenda, with all of the items that are before us tonight. On this particular item, I did have questions and sought information with regard to costs, investment, and the current status of this project. I'm going to put maybe with regard to the bond issue, there is $9.5 million dedicated to build the connector road from 1077 to 21 through the bond proceeds. $9 million of the total $30+ million that was approved. Also, through my research, in July of 2019, that's when the $9.5 million was approved by the council in a council resolution 6135 for the construction of the connector road and the use of the bond money. The current project cost is $13,296,000 with 1.170 funded by Sales Tax District 3, parish-wide. And I was able to find out what that meant. I know where that money's coming from, or where it's allocated. 2.595 funded by mandatory service area transportation impact fees. Those are fees that are paid by developers and builders as they build. And,
That's correct.
okay. And $9.5 million funded by Sales Tax District 3 bond funds. I think we already said that. So, but this particular, for the purchase of the right-of-way, I wasn't sure if this is for a drainage servitude, or is this for the particular road right-of-way, proposed road right-of-way? Do we have a clarification on that?
Ms. Cuvio?
I believe it's a drainage servitude that's tied to the connector road project overall. And I'm,
Yeah, but
it's a 50-foot drainage servitude that I believe is required for the connector road project.
It's a servitude for the Connector Road project. That's what you said.
and did I understand, Mr. Chairman, that, so the road right-of-way has already been purchased?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, that has already been purchased. Okay.
This is the, what's supposedly, according to legal, what was left out of the original when we did it. For whatever reason.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, and the proposed purchase price of this servitude, is that public record?
That should be,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Ms. Long?
What I recall from seeing a recent, I guess, check request, assuming that this were to pass, I think it was in the $6,500 range, is what I remember seeing. $6,500 is what I recall.
Okay, so we're talking about $6,500 of a $9.7 million project?
Well, as
Is that what
President
I'm hearing?
Cooper explained, the total project is over $13 million, of which, what I recall is close to $2 million was budgeted for land acquisition and right-of-way.
Okay. Excuse me, sit down, Ms.
Okay, so it's already been purchased.
Any
Okay,
other?
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other, questions about that, Mr.
No,
Cooper?
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir, I appreciate it. Mr. Dean?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to wait and let everybody else say, and I just kind of wrap up.
That'll be fine.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Canulet?
All right. So, after talking with Carlin, this is the only piece holding us out. 50 foot, we own all the other rest of it. 6,500 feet, I'm sorry, $6,500, 50 feet. This is a road that's desperately needed. And as far as the roundabouts go, to come up and say they don't work, you need to go study that, because in my district, the most heavily traveled road in my district and in the parish has a roundabout. And it has saved lives because we do not have traffic backed up for miles. So don't knock them till you try them. They're really a good tool, and they really work well for the cost of them. But we need to move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the first meeting, and I say this sincerely, I want to thank our parish president for being very quick on his feet with the 50-foot and $6,500, because that was the question I was going to ask. So you beat me to it, Mr. Parish President. I think that's good. But here's what I want to ask Ms. Leslie and our attorneys, if possible. The certain parcels really is, in this ordinance, is a certain parcel. I understand, I'm saying we're only authorizing the purchase of one leftover parcel at $6,500. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Staff too? Okay. Mr. Tanner?
My question is are we holding up anything by not passing this? It seems like it's been sitting here a while. Why don't we know what we're doing before we vote on it? I didn't ask you, Mr. Stefanik.
Richard, from what I gather, this is the last piece of that parcel that was left over for whatever reason, and I don't know that. If I could, I would say it. But that's the last piece of it.
Are we going to buy it tomorrow or what?
I would assume they would buy it as soon as 30 days, whatever it takes, the normal process of procurement to do it. Yes, sir. But we can ask Leslie that question. She's the numbers lady.
Well, and the question was, would they buy it tomorrow? Is that what the question was?
Oh, as soon as
sorry.
possible, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. But they do have to wait for your authorization before they can make arrangements with the title company to schedule a closing. But there has been, and I'm pretty sure that I've seen some of the paperwork, because usually I'll review it in advance of the documents going through the accounts payable department for payment. So just to see if there's anything missing before we process something, so.
Okay. Mr. Stefanik.
This is an item for introduction. I don't know why we're spending all this kind of time on it tonight, which will be coming up on the Agenda Review Committee later on this month, and can be discussed at length there and not take up the whole council meeting, and it cannot be approved before next month anyhow.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's very important when someone comes up and from the public and wants to discuss this issue, and I think it's very important that we do that. So I'm going to allow that time to be forwarded. Mr. Dean?
I'm okay with
Chairman,
it.
is this on? All right. It's a little ridiculous, I think, that we're even discussing this. I know that it is part of a kind of a conspiracy thought that this road was begun or was thought of to favor a developer or some projects out there. It's ridiculous. I have emails, and I've shared this with many, many people. I've got emails that date back years. I remember sitting in this chamber discussing with the previous 2 parish presidents ago, Kevin Davis, about the need to do more east-west roads. Now, if there's anybody in this chamber who doesn't think we need more roads, something's wrong. Something's wrong. So it's all a part of the little conspiracy that it's out there. It's ridiculous, and it's destructive. It's destructive. So it is, we do need more east-west roads. This road started out as Oshner Boulevard. correct? Goes past Oshner and then goes north up to 1085. At that juncture, there's a roundabout, right? Which means, been there for years, I don't know how many of you have traveled to Oshner, that roundabout's been there for years. It just didn't connect going west. It went north, but it is clearly a roundabout. So now we're going to sit here and debate whether we want to complete that? That's just ridiculous. So having said that, and I apologize for being a little emotional, but this is just ridiculous. And I'm sure we'll be back again next month saying the same thing. So I certainly hope not. But I'd like to make a motion to move it forward.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Canulette. Seeing no one else in the queue, please vote. No vote? Okay, no vote, I'm sorry, thank you. Okay, number 17. Ordinance calendar number 6318, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget, amendment number 3. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir, can you hear me? Ordinance calendar 6318, which is being introduced tonight, will amend the operating budget for two purposes. One, to transfer funds from the Civil Legal Department to the CAO Department or Office for the function of risk management. And there is also an amendment to our Public Health Fund for funding for the startup cost for the Crisis Receiving Center that's located at Safe Haven.
Any questions from anybody on the council or anyone else? Seeing none, motion for introduction. Motion by Mr. Canulette, second by Mr. Bender. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to resolutions. Resolution number 1, resolution CS number C-6208, resolution approving the issuance of not exceeding $1 million of limited tax certificates on indebtedness, Series 2020 of Recreation District Number 14, Parish of St. Tammany Parish. Mr. Slutic, Mr. Grant.
Grant Schluter with Fuller Udell Bond Counsel, and Richard Bentley Smith is also here, Executive Director with the Coquille District. This is a request for $1 million of limited tax certificates. This will be secured by their existing millage. And Richard can explain the purpose for which the proceeds of this loan are going to be used. There will be an RFP to banks, numerous financial institutions, including all banks in the parish. That's anticipated to go out tomorrow, and that will be for 3/4 of the $1 million. So $750,000 will be placed with a bank pursuant to a request for proposals. The balance of $250,000 will be purchased by the Louisiana Public Facilities Authority in Baton Rouge under their low-interest programs for small issuers, and LPFA will commit to an interest rate of 1/2 of whatever the lowest bank rate is, so that'll reduce the cost to the district.
Thank you. Richard?
So before I became the executive director, Coquille got into a lease purchase with Musco Lighting. The lease purchase is rather excessive, and we can pay off the lights at a much lower interest rate, saving the taxpayer dollars this direction. In addition, the extra money that we're getting from this is going to be used for parking lot improvements to feed into the new area that you guys have developed right in front of 1085, which I thank y'all for, because I find it to be a much safer area for kids to travel in that area as far as going to the park and Archbishop Hannon High School. So, any questions?
Seeing no questions. Mr. Dean? Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for all you do. You're doing a great job over there, sir. Thank you. Resolution number 2, CS number 6209, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the present appointments of an administrating hearing officer. Mr. Cooper.
If you don't mind, I'm going to stand at the
You-
mic
I
up
have-
here, sir.
I have a few of, you have a few of them.
And
You
that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Please go right ahead.
Thank you. This appointment is to provide for the administrative hearing officer that serves us. And I'm here to appoint Roy K. Burns Jr., local attorney who has government experience as well as he's a local civil attorney as well. And I ask for your confirmation of this appointment.
Thank you. Any discussion? Motion by Ms. Canulette, second by Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you.
Please
Mr.
vote.
Burns was here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here.
Yes, he's
Oh.
he's in the back.
Thank you.
Please,
Burns.
go ahead and please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
On that issue, Mr. Cooper, I mentioned to Mr. Burns that we need to look at increasing the fines in some way, shape, or form, because $250 is not sufficient when you have some issues with builders and people that just want to do what they want to do, and they're making more money in other areas. So
We'll be happy to look at what
we'll
the
have that
fines are.
We'll have that discussion
Okay,
later.
very
but
good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3, resolution CS number C-6210, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the President's appointment of Director of Planning and Development. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ross Liner, would you stand up, please? Ross and his family are Mandeville residents. Ross has a degree in urban and regional planning. He has a master's degree and is a certified planner, transportation planner, and floodplain manager. He has both public and private experience, served as a member of the Board of Zoning Adjustments in Jefferson Parish. He grew up in Jefferson Parish, but moved over here after Katrina. And in the private business, served as the staff planner for digital engineering. So, and has almost 20 years of professional planning experience. Ross brings a new, fresh perspective into planning and development, and I welcome him here, and I ask that you welcome Ross here with your confirmation of this appointment.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Mr. Lorino, apparently your button turned off again.
I'm 100% behind it.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 4, resolution CS number C-6211, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the President's, appointment of the Chief Administrative Officer. President Cooper.
Thank you, sir. Gina Hayes, would you stand up, please? Gina Hayes. Gina is a cum laude graduate from the University of New Orleans with a bachelor's degree in pre-law and a master's degree in urban studies from UNO. She's a former director of community development for St. Bernard Parish prior to Katrina. She and her family moved to Covington after Katrina, and she continued to serve with St. Bernard Parish for some time until she was hired by St. Tammany Parish government to work in grants. She didn't put that in there, but I recall that. And she then went to the city of Covington before I was at the city of Covington, working in utility billing director, manager. And when I became mayor in 2011, July 2011, I appointed Gina as Chief Administrative Officer for the city of Covington. She served me well for 8 years, and I'm happy to bring her to parish government here in St. Tammany to serve as our Chief Administrative Officer to serve me, you, and the citizens of St. Tammany. So I ask that you welcome Gina with your confirmation of this appointment.
Motion by Mr. Mike Smith, second by Ms. O'Brien. Ms. O'Brien, motion, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Mike, I haven't had the opportunity yet to work with your new Director of Planning, but I have with Ms. Gina, and she's very knowledgeable, and I really enjoyed our first conversations and working with her, so I just want to say that.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, number 6, Resolution CS number C-6213, resolution to approve, reject the Board of Commerce, and, I'm sorry, I didn't have number 5 pulled. Okay, all righty. Okay, let me go back to this one. Resolution CS number C-6213, resolution to approve, reject a Board of Commerce and Industry approved application for industrial tax exemption by Allpack Products LLC. Mr. Toledano?
Motion to approve. This was
Postpone.
Thank you very much. I'll stand corrected. I'm going to move to postpone this. It has to go to the Finance Committee. So my motion is to postpone and refer to the Finance Committee. Thank you very much.
Second by Mr. T.J. Smith. Please vote. I get messed up.
Motion is unanimous,
Mess me
one
up. You're
absent.
supposed to keep me squared away. Okay, number 9, Resolution CS number C-6216, resolution to amend ordinance CS number 19-417 to make changes to the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets. Ms. Long.
Yes, sir. C-6216, the resolution, will identify 3 increases in the budget. 2 are for the purchase of equipment, 1 being a printer plotter and a commercial washer dryer for the crisis receiving center at Safe Haven, and then 1 increase for Hollycrest Boulevard to increase the number of concrete panels that will be replaced on that project.
Okay, any questions? I have a motion. Motion by Mr. Davis and second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Mr. Canulet?
Yes.
Mr. Lorino, hit yours again, please. Mr. Lorino.
I hit it back.
It keeps turning. One more time. It keeps turning off. I'm not sure why.
I can't help, I'm for it.
Well, you can push it one more time. It should work. There we go.
I can only hit it back.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay. Number 10, Resolution CS number C-6217, resolution to take action on warranty and performance obligations. Mr. Dean, I believe?
Grand Oaks project?
Yes, sir.
I believe, okay. I'd like to, what would we do? Amend it to extend for 6 months, please, at the advice of Mr. Watson in engineering.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Canulet to amend it. We need a vote on that. Please vote. Oh, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
And then we need one more vote. Am I correct? Motion by Mr. D, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, we'll go to appeals. Appeal number 1. Matthew Allen appealing the Planning Commission's approval on November 12, 2019 of preliminary subdivision review of Providence Park Phase 1, Ward 1, District 3. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Chairman Lorino.
Hold on one second, let me make sure he gets you 10 minutes there, my friend.
Good, that gives me the time to pull up my PowerPoint.
Yes, sir, you go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Uh-oh, what happened here?
PowerPoint is whole.
Slideshow. And I'm not sure what this is doing at the moment. Toggle. See all slides.
Your time's up, Mr. Allen.
I know. All right, well, while I'm getting this up, there we go, okay. I just want to say that we're not doing the appropriate floodplain management on this. And you're not actually obeying all the laws. And this is a really flood-prone area. It goes underwater multiple times in my lifetime. This is a picture of Highway 1077 at Providence Park looking north before the crest of the March 16th flood. This is right on the border between the Tchefuncte Basin and the Tangipahoa Basin. Providence Park would be on the right, the Tangipahoa Basin would be on the left. And this acts as a dam and then a spillway when the river gets too high to release excess water and keep it from going down toward Covington and everything. It helps to reduce flood heights, just like the Bonacary Spillway. And this is the August 2016 flood. There's a brand new subdivision just north of the area of Spring Lakes. And the March flood was actually 1 foot higher. This was actually in flood zone C and B. But as we all know, these floods regularly go above the base flood elevation. We don't have enough data to really know what the base flood elevation is. This is McGee Road, adjacent to Providence Park. This is the north boundary. And as you can see, they had to rescue people back here in March. And these homes, a lot of these homes also flooded again in the August. Now, Mr. Marone said, we obey all the laws. We have a book over here of the laws that we're supposed to enforce, and that's what we follow. And he refuses to admit that we also have a special flood hazard area in our Code of Ordinances, sections 115 through 27 through 115, 112. These are minimum standards mandated by FEMA under the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 44, Parts 59 and 60, and I'm going to talk about 60.3. These are required to be enforced by the parish for the parish and its residents to remain eligible to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. Get rid of that, all development stops in the parish, in the flood zones. And I know it's a lot of words. I just want to highlight some of this 1529 statement of purpose. To minimize expenditure of public money for costly flood control projects. They're looking at putting in $1 billion to put in a dam north of Denham Springs on the Meat River to protect the areas they built in the flood zones in Denham Springs and Baton Rouge. Do we want to levy our scenic rivers around here to protect them? Because when you build it out and put a lot of people flooding, that's what it's going to call for. Number 3, to minimize the need to rescue. You saw the first picture. They were rescuing people and the cost associated with it. And number 7, to ensure potential buyers are notified that property is a flood area. We've had issues with that with Spring Lakes. 15.3, methods of reducing flood loss. restrict or prohibit uses that are dangerous to health, safety, and property. Prevent or regulate construction of flood barriers. This project will act as a flood barrier at the spillway that releases excess flood waters from the system, then would redirect them downstream toward Covington. Again, I'm not an engineer, but you're building a levee here. Lands to which this article applies, 1532. This article shall apply to all areas of special flood hazard within the jurisdiction of the parish. This property is fully within the A zone of the floods. It always floods. It floods about every 10 years, actually. And then 11536, however, where this article and another article conflict or overlap, whichever imposes a more stringent restriction shall prevail. So, I find it a shame that a layman has to tell the lawyer what the laws are for the parish here. And this is one that really is. You have to study the cumulative effect of the proposed development when combined with all other existing and anticipated development that will not increase water surface area. Permit procedures, I'm going to save time because I know some people want to talk here. I'm going to skip through these. Now, this is National Assurance Guidance that talks about streams without floodway maps, which the Tchefuncte River is one. You must evaluate all development to ensure that will not increase flood stages by more than 1 foot. FEMA guidance. Cumulative effect of the proposed development combined with all other existing anticipated. And to do that, it has to be Chapter 5, Hydraulic Analysis of the Flood Insurance Study, Guidelines and Specifications for Study Contractors. Specific paper and guidance for doing this. And must be required for all developments, including large fill. And here's a relevant section from that FEMA paper. Flood elevations for riverine areas are normally determined by step backwater computer models. The engineers said before, oh, we took care of that because we are doing our floodwater storage mitigation. That doesn't affect the flow of the water. The water's trying to get to Lake Pontchartrain. You don't let it get to Lake Pontchartrain, it backs up. And again, this is a high hazard area. It exists. This is a map showing the watershed, the Tchefuncte Basin. And we are on the edge of the Tchefuncte Basin on the right-hand map. I have a little square showing Providence Park, and the flood water flows out of the Tchefuncte into the Tangipahoa. Here's a map done by a Gulf Restoration Network of fill applications for wetlands from 2014 to 2018. This is not fill in the flood zones. This is just wetlands. Not all the flood zone is wetlands. As you can see, there's a preponderance in the area of the Tchefuncte and Goodby. This has never been studied. We need to know what we have done to this system before we allow. This is FEMA's newest base elevation, estimate base flood elevations. And the inundation for just a 10-year flood showing Providence Park, Spring Lakes, Preserve at Goodby Lake, which was approved at end of last year, Countryside, and another one I can't remember the name down south of 190. They're all filling it in, stopping the flow from the water. Here's a 100-year flood zone, inundation map for the 100-year flood showing all of these. And these are based off the 30-foot at the 190 bridge, which we know we've exceeded 4 or 5 times in the last 30 years. And as you can see, 30-foot is a 100-year flood stage. We've exceeded that 4 times on record. There's a 5th one in 1983 where the stream gauge broke, which was higher than any. I lived through it. I was 15. I lost my first car in it. I've been told I make up floods. No, this is the data that we have. And I'd like to save the rest of this and give whoever else wants to speak. I'll save the rest of this for my rebuttal.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mr. No, only 10 minutes. Yeah. Mr. Windhorst? Andrew? Mr. Martin, I don't see a card up here for you. Did you put one in?
Mr. Martin, you need to probably talk first.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Windhorst. Mr. Windhorst, you only got a few minutes here. You only have 2.3s.
Yes, sir. I'm the Water Program Director at Gulf Restoration Network, and our organization did a study of the Corps of Engineers permits in the Pontchartrain Basin over 2014 to 2018. And St. Tammany Parish is one of the hot spots, along with Livingston and Ascension around Prairieville and around Denham Springs. And the parish in 2018 filled 509 acres. There were 509 acres of wetland permits applied for in the last year of 2018. And across 2014 to 2018, there were 1,246 acres of wetland permits applied for. And the Corps grants all but about 4% of the wetland permits. So the larger context that Matthew's talking about is that this area, western St. Tammany Parish, is a hot spot for wetland loss and for continuing applications of new permits. And I've got some maps here, enough for the council. Can I leave them with
Sure. Yes, sir.
somebody to distribute?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to take any more time, but I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wagner? Nancy Wagner? Okay. Mr. Ennis? Newland Ennis? Ma'am? Thank you.
Hello, it's Nelwyn McInnes. You can call me Nell. It's a lot easier. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate the council. Those are re-elected and those are newly elected, and Mike Cooper for his resounding election. And I think it truly shows that the citizens want new thinking, new direction. I live in the Goodby area, and I want to speak for me and for people with the Goodby Civic Association. We flood all the time. We have seen in 2016 incredible catastrophe. Over 90 people had to be rescued, over 150 homes flooded. We need some new thinking here. Building slab on grade homes where 3 years ago we saw it underwater twice is insanity. We have got to look closely at what we're doing to the people.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I know, Dr. Martin, you wanted to speak, but we're out of time if you want to come up on the rebuttal, but I do not have a card for you. Well, that doesn't do me any good down there, okay? Okay, and you know that. Anyway. I do know that. Anyway.
I didn't want to disturb you.
Yes, sir. Yes, Paul has 10 minutes. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Paul Marone on behalf of the developer, Providence Parks LLC. I want to step back just a minute and give you some history on this project because I think it's important for context. This property was originally zoned and approved in 2009 for 1,280 residential units. In addition to that, they also had significant commercial zoning in that development. Of that 1,280 residential units, a portion of those were zoned for multifamily apartments. In 2017, we came in with a new developer and requested an amendment to the PUD. We effectively changed the PUD plan and downzoned the entire property. There are no apartments permitted at all, and we reduced the density by more than 800 units. 800 units. That request that we made was roundly applauded, as you might imagine. People supported the idea of modifying this plan from what was approved in 2009 to the plan that is before you tonight. On the heels of that, in July of 2018, we requested preliminary approval, which is the next step in the process. What a stream of events that started. That was the point in time where the discussion about the fill mitigation ordinance came up. The case was tabled for 16 months. This case was tabled for 16 months. A committee was established. Mr. Lorino was kind enough to chair that committee. That committee met over a number of months. There was a recommendation about fill mitigation in St. Tammany Parish and about this, in particular with this project in mind. Dr. Martin, Mr. Allen sat on that committee. Recommendation to the council. The council finally makes a decision, passes an ordinance that adopts a very stringent view of fill mitigation in St. Tammany Parish. As a result of that, our position as the developer of this project was simple. We have to comply if we want to go forward. The debate is over. The discussion is over. We have a law in the books that says this is what you have to do. So what do? We re-engineer our plan, and we submit our plan to your staff. When we re-engineer our plan, we look at the ordinances of St. Tammany Parish and the new ordinance that was passed. In that plan, we address all of the items that are required to be addressed for preliminary subdivision approval. However, we don't make that decision. We don't decide if we have met your requirements. We submit it to your engineers. They review it. And remember, that was where the discussion about fill mitigation started, with the engineers. We submit this new plan to your engineers, and they determine we comply. We set out to comply. We're told we comply. So what does complying mean? Well, first of all, we had to shrink the footprint of the developed area on this site. We had to increase our ponds, or our excavation on the site, by about 50% from what was to be excavated back in 2018. Significant changes. That excavation is significant because what does that do? What that does is it requires that if we want to put a slab on grade and we want to put a house pad in place, guess what we have to do? We've got to have excavated soil so that there is a no net change in the elevation of that property from another spot on our property. That's why the excavation had to be increased by almost 50%. So we did that. We revised the design to accommodate that. And we stand before you tonight with a plan that your engineers have approved, have said is in compliance. Your zoning commission, or your planning commission rather, has looked at and has unanimously approved. This is a project that has languished now almost a year and a half. A year and a half. Our goal is to comply with the ordinances. With all due respect to Mr. Allen, I do agree with two things he said. He's not an engineer and he's not a lawyer. And that's important. These are engineering questions. And I respect and appreciate his concern for the area and his position. But I disagree with his opinions. I disagree with his opinions. I disagree that this project and this plan is not in compliance. Your staff disagrees that it is not in compliance. They have found it to be in compliance. That is our charge. Our charge as the development community and as this developer in particular and this project in particular is to abide by the ordinances that are out there. We do our best to do that. We have done that in this case. We've done that in this case. This project has undergone more delays than any project I've ever been involved in, perhaps for good reason, because in the end, I would like to think that the product and the project is better. Better for my client, better for the people that will live in that development, better for the people of St. Tammany Parish. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, does it comply or doesn't it comply? Because if it complies, then I respectfully suggest that you should concur with the Planning Commission's approval and ultimately concur with what your staff determined. So again, I appreciate your consideration. It has been a long road, but I think we're at a point where we've reached compliance, and we hope you will support the project and concur with the Planning Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Paul, does anyone else On your side, you got 3 minutes left? Lone Ranger. Okay, you're Lone Ranger. Okay, my friend, thank you. Okay, we'll go to the 3-minute rebuttal. Mr. Allen?
Dr. Martin had some of the, while I pull this up again, I wanted to finish this off.
You're on the clock now, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Dr.
okay.
Martin had several pictures showing McGee Road, the north boundary, looking, and then looking toward the park. Could we pass these around possibly? And again, at some point, like he said, we have to continue on, but at some point, we also have to follow floodplain regulations here. These are on the books. This is a flood zone area. These are the parish regulations. These are federal regulations. He's talking, oh, we did our fill mitigation, our flood storage. But the community rating system that FEMA uses to give us a discount even says the storage does not mitigate the flow.
Thank you.
We are stopping this up. Do you want to redirect water? I don't know if it will, but the study would tell us that. And that's all we're asking. We're asking you to do no harm here. These people go further and further. The floods, there's a 67% confidence area. That they're somewhere between the 22-year flood and the 125-year flood for the August floods. That's the USGS. Now, here's some subdivisions that y'all approved, said they were safe from flooding. Pinmill Lakes, March 2016, a young man drowned because he couldn't see the difference between the land and where the pond was. Here. Here is Gottschall Road and Tuscany West, not supposed to flood. No studies done. Fill, more fill here. Tantilla Ranch Road, the back of the Army truck rescuing people. Do we want to put 400 homes here where you're likely to have to go rescue them again and have them go underwater because we really don't know what the floods are doing here? If you fill it, it'll happen. It might go up, but that's why FEMA requires a study. That's required to enforce this. Countryside Gardens. This is one of my favorites. This is one I was told I was making up floods. Prudent Creek. The left flood, the left one, all the roads and infrastructure's in before any houses. The right one is December 2018, a moderate flood, 27 feet. These waters go 4 feet higher than this. And this is McGee Road, March 2016. Do we really want to put hundreds of more homes and families on fill in this area? Allowing development on slab on fill is reckless, irresponsible, and abuse of discretion. At a minimum, require less fill and raised homes. Do the study, please. Show everybody they're not going to be injured. Because once you build it, it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Moreau. Unless you, Dr. Martin, unless you want to try in 8 seconds, but that'll never make it.
I might pass on that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, he does. Good, Paul.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. With regards to the studies, we have performed and we have provided all of the studies that this parish requires us to do for preliminary subdivision approval. And that is evidenced by the recommendation of your staff after reviewing our submittals. With regards to the flooding, again, about a third to the eastern third to half of this property is in a flood zone. We have concentrated the development as much as possible out of that floodplain. We have left as much of the property to our east undisturbed, and that's where our excavation is going to be as you move west. And so we have done what we can to avoid as much of the floodplain as we can. We've done as much as we can to avoid as much of the wetlands on the site as we can. And all of these are the parameters with which we designed. We are aware of these concerns, we share these concerns, and those were put into the design to accommodate these issues as best we could. There is no requirement in St. Tammany Parish to force raised houses. If we want to put fill, though, if we want to put fill and not build raised, there are a lot of requirements that we have to meet. And those of you who sat on the committee, those of you who considered that fill mitigation ordinance, know that very well. I still hear Mr. Lorino's voice ringing in my ears about the fact that his concern about flooding and the reason he felt shall not should go in that ordinance. Well, we heard shall not. We designed based on shall not. And for us to be able to utilize fill for our house pads, we have got to show the requisite excavation in other areas. And we've done that. We've done that. That's why our excavations exceeded by 50% what it was under our prior plan. I respectfully submit to you that your staff has reviewed this in detail and has recommended approval. Your Planning Commission has reviewed this at a public hearing and unanimously recommended approval. I urge you to concur with their recommendations this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Okay, we'll go to the conclusion, and council members can ask questions. So I got it right, Steve. And but that's right. But I'll start off. Paul, could you come back up for a minute, please, sir? No, that's open now, council.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I think you answered one of my questions. You meet the new ordinance. I heard you say that. That's correct. Okay.
Yes, yes,
and
sir.
everybody knows that. Well, I appreciate that, and I think that's a great start. But I remember what you just said about me being in your ear about shall not. I think you know what I'm getting ready to say, but I'll say it anyway. There's no study that you have right now that is required by the parish that you can show me that says this won't flood.
Well, I will say a couple of things to that, Councilman Lorino. One, there is no study that you could ever get from anywhere that would say 100% that nothing will ever flood. That study doesn't exist. But what we know that there is a base flood elevation out there. That is what everybody lives by, right? Your finished floor elevation has to be at or above that base flood elevation. I know that we have engineered this site so that the finished floor elevation of the homes in this site will be above that base flood elevation. I also know that for waters that are coming from the east, which is where the Little Tchefuncte River is, we have significant excavation, dry ponds and wet ponds, that will intercept that water. Does that mean that no water will ever get to where the homes are, that the streets won't flood? I can't say that. All I can say is that of the parameters that are out there, the requirements that we all have to live by, and those are quite stringent, as we know, we have complied with all of those.
And I understand totally that there will be no guarantee.
Right.
But I would assume that there could be a study or could be something provided by an engineering firm that I could have in my hand right now that expressed exactly what you just said, that you require, you're going by everything, you're doing it. And I know that's not a requirement, okay? But I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again every time. That needs to be changed in our code so that you are complying 1,000, not 100%, not 100%, you are complying 1,000%. But I really believe that we need to look a little bit deeper because of flooding and have some other requirements that we get when you go to planning and zoning, or I go to planning and zoning, or Toledano goes, that we have more information. And that's not this case, but I've mentioned it to you a number of times that that's an issue that I have, and I'm going to look at it this year, and we're going to try to do something. But I'm going to say it again. You're complying with this 100%, and I appreciate that, and I'm finished.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Ms. Casabon. Yes, ma'am. You've been very quiet over there, but I'll be.
No, not now. No.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
This has been very tough for me for the last 4 years. When we got the plans on this, that was over 1,200 lots. I was on the planning and zoning at the time, and we kept saying no to this and no to that. It was just it was just horrendous to me to think that we would try to put that many homes and commercial and the apartments in that particular area. But it took us this long that we did work with the developer, and we reduced the number of lots. And so we've looked at all of this for a number of years. The pictures we saw are just heartbreaking. I understand that. But those are pictures that were taken. And when the floods happened, that was in the 2016. In the other parts of my district, there was flooding that had never flooded. And we're talking about the elevation being hills and almost very, very high elevation. It was one of those things that, to me, it was an act of God, the amount of rain that we had in the number of years, number of weeks, and how those rivers and stuff filled up. I won't say it won't happen again, but when we look at how we build, this particular area is a basin that they're going, the water is trying to get to the chiffon, to the Lake Pontchartrain. I feel like what we have, the statistics, the ordinances, everything that we have at this point in time, we are developing subdivisions that meet those requirements. And in that case, this particular one has met, and to me, in some cases, they have worked with us and gone beyond some of our ordinances, and because that is already in place, I'm going to concur with planning and zoning.
We have a motion by Ms. Casavant to concur. Is there a second? Yes, sir.
Since we ask one side questions, we go into that final conclusion, you know that. Each side has now 2 minutes.
Okay.
Because we ask a question.
Okay, all righty. Mr. Martin, but do we have a second? Do we have a second? A second by Mr. Kenulek. Come on up. Come on up.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No Mexican dance, just come on up.
I won't take a minute here. Again, these are ordinances in your ordinance book. I copied those from the ordinance. They are required by FEMA to be enforced. This is not about just this property. This is about a rise of 1 foot in the whole area for the residents, for the neighbors. When you put something down, it starts to back up. And especially in this point, this is a very specific point. I'm not opposing the subdivision. I want proof it will not hurt. I have continued flood storage is not the required study. And he's just obfuscating from the ordinances that require the study. Greater restrictions, that's what the floodplain ordinance says. This is the greater restriction. Please enforce your own laws. Excavation does not help flow. Fill backs up floods onto other properties. And storage does not mitigate it. And by the way, I am a floodplain manager. I might not be an engineer or a lawyer, but I've read through these laws. And this parish has for years ignored and then obfuscated and misdirected from these regulations to the point where now it is affecting the flood rates. And we have a right to know that. Thank you.
Mr. Martin, I got a few minutes, come on. A few seconds, come on.
You got it.
42 seconds.
You got it. John Martin, 12375 Causeway. The papers that I handed out, those 2 pictures, are a picture on McGee of the houses, which is the north border of this being rescued, and the next picture is looking from the house to Providence Park, okay? Everything is underwater. The studies I have say that Providence Park will flood 2 to 3 times in a 30-year mortgage, flat. Now, if you think about this is very simple. If you take land and build land up on the other side of McGee, when that water comes down from the Washington Parish, what's going to happen? It's going to flood McGee and anybody north of it worse. Very simple.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Cooper. Hold on one second. Mr. Morone,
Just
I'll let you close, sir.
Just very briefly, to suggest that no data has been produced is simply not accurate. You require, through your ordinances, detailed hydrological studies, detailed engineering calculations and drawings about this entire development, So to suggest that that we haven't provided data or that there's these other studies that have to be done. You have in your ordinances significant requirements that we must produce through our engineers to demonstrate that we comply. And part of that compliance is that we meet these regulations. And that has been done. That's why your staff recommended approval, and that's why your commission recommended approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bender? I'm going to go to Mr. Bender first. There you go, Jerry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
You're on, sir.
I have a question for this gentleman, Dr. Martin, and Mr. Morone, if any of y'all know the answer to this question, okay? Would you please go to the microphone? It's a simple question just to make me more knowledgeable. What are the flood rates in this area? These homes that you showed us that have had flooding, correct me if I'm wrong, is it due to rain, the river overflowing? Yes. River overflowing,
Right.
Okay. So what's the general flood zone rates?
Really, it's very expensive, but we've actually had houses that have lost their flood insurance because there are now multiple flood houses.
Now, my question is, what does an average home in there's flood insurance cost?
It'd probably be between $300.
$400
Yeah.
a house. I flooded 4 times.
Thank you.
And
Per year.
the approximate value of your home?
Well, it's going down a little bit because it's flooded, but my approximate value of my home is about $160,000, $180,000.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I simply want to say I agree with your assessment of let's address sooner than later the problems that are being experienced now with regard to our requirements. If our requirements are still causing the problems that we're facing, we need to address that. And I'm committing our staff, our planning and engineering staff to work with our parish council to address these issues so that we can address the flooding issues that we have.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I know we discussed that, and
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. And the work group mentioned to Dr. Martin and Mr. Allen that the work group will be getting back together February, first Monday in February.
Thank you,
So we'll
sir.
start this process, and we'll look at all of those, and we'll move it forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, I had a motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Canulette. Go ahead and please vote.
Yes, it's to concur. Right?
Yes, to approve.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Thank you. Number 2, Paula, I'm sorry. Oh, I need a resolution on that? Okay.
Another main.
Motion by Ms. Casabon, a resolution, and also a second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Thank you. Number 2, appeal, Paula Francisco, appealing the zoning commission approval on November 13, 2019 to rezone 0.75 acres located west of Tower Lane, north of North Pontchartrain Drive, Lacombe, from A-2 Suburban District to A-2 Suburban District and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay, Ward 7, District 7. Paula? Yes, sir. And I know you have a few people, so whatever you, take your time.
My sister,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am, yes, ma'am. 10 minutes, thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Paula Fashon. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here with my sister and my husband today because we're against the new zoning being requested in our neighborhood. When I purchased my land in '86, everyone in the area purchased 1 acre of land, but the person that I'm disputing purchased an acre but split it into 2 pieces so that he can rent the property out. Now, he's going to say that he sold part of it to his brother, but it's still, he split it up to rent it, but it's his property. It's on North Pontchartrain. When you get on Pontchartrain from the 190, like 1.4 miles is like where I live, and from Fish Hatchery is another 1.4 miles. Pretty much all of those residents have built homes. Now, when I moved there, I lived in a trailer, a mobile home, and since then I built a house. They do have other trailers that are in the area that's been there for years, and one of them is my sister's, which lives across the street with Sunrise Estate. And if she wanted to move the one that's on there and put another one, I would be here for that, against that. I want to give y'all a little history. I have spoken to the property owner several times, asking him to be considerate and the people that he rent to. So just taking consideration that we were raised in a family. So within the last 10 to 15 years, we've had domestic disputes, drug dealers, dog fighters, and many other different people that he rented to. We done went to our home. We done had task force approach us to ask us to make sure that we lived in our home, because then they would show us pictures of who they're looking for, which would be his rentals. And it is kind of like scary to live in a neighborhood that you worked all your life to provide a home for your family, to have this going on. We had rentals come up to tell us, for us to stay on our side of the road. They'll mind their business, for us to mind our own business. One night, we had they had bulldogs that got loose, that got behind me and my cousin. We could not go back to our home. We had to get my husband a car to come pick us up, to bring us back to our house. We have people parking on our side of the streets under our dusk to dawn light, and Byron would have to go and ask them to, not have their company on our side of the street. So on that property, since he split it up, there was 2 mobile homes on the property that he would rent out. About 5 years or so ago, one of the trailers burned down. And I hate to say it, but it was a blessing for us because it wasn't there anymore. And since the other neighbors in the area had changed the zoning area, one can be put back in that spot. And I think that's where he's talking about putting a modular home or a manufactured home. And the thing is, he's still on that property. He's not talking about giving his daughter the property so she can build her home. He's talking about just letting her put something there, and then it's still his property. She doesn't live there. He can still rent it out and bring in people that, because he can rent, still bring in rentals that is really not good for the neighborhood. Everyone in the area that we live in it's over 50. And we have, some people, I asked them to come, but, we have one of our neighbors who have cancer, his wife is taking care of him. We have another one who's 70-something years old. So everyone wasn't able to come because some of them were sickly, but we did ask them to come over. Because there was so much traffic in the neighborhood because of those rentals, I had to get the parish to put a speed bump, a speed limit sign. So that, because I was afraid for my kids, if they would go out and play, if someone hit them, I needed to have something. And I would always go outside with my kids. I would never let them outside by themselves. I mean, it's a shame that someone worked so hard to build them a nice home and, they want their family to feel safe. I have another sister that lived behind me, and we always look out for each other. If she saw something strange happening, she would let me know, or I would, vice versa, I would let her know. I have called the police and on the neighbors before, but they gave my name and my address and told that I'm the one that called. So it's kind of scary to call to report something and they give your name and your address, and that way, so right now, there's someone living on the front trailer. He do have a trailer there, which I thought it was unlivable because no one lived in it for years. But he do have someone living in that trailer now. And he want to put something on the back of the property. But I'm asking you to please leave the zoning as is. Like I said, they do have a few trailers in the neighborhood. One is my sister's across the street and the Sunrise Estate. And if she wanted to move that trailer out and put another one in, I would be here against that. Because I already told her that because we're trying to build our property value up, and because we're trying to make the neighborhood better, it would be safe if they wouldn't rent out, if she wouldn't rent out the property. And like I said, all the other mobile homes that's there, they have like 4 of them. They've been there for years. Recently, one in the back, the homeowner sold that one, so now that person is using it as a rental. And about 2 years ago, they tried to do zoning because they wanted to put like more trailers back there on that same piece of property. And thank God that it was not approved. The person that owned that property does not live where we live. So he doesn't have to worry about people coming in and out all through the night, and you're in his neighborhood because he's just renting out to whomever in our neighborhood. So I would be against him moving another trailer or manufacturer. Like I said, if he wanted to give the daughter a property and she build a house of some sort, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But as long as he own it, I don't feel comfortable, and I don't feel safe that he's going to do what he said he's going to do, because I asked him several times, be considerate of who you bring in our neighborhood. I have kids. And that was just like, I guess, in one ear and went out the other. Like I said, we want our property value to go up and not down, because we want to increase our property value. At the end of the day, it's just, that's just how it is. I work every day. I've worked since I'm over 50. I've been working since I was 17, 16. And, and I don't want to live unsafe in my own home. I don't want my kids to live unsafe in their home. So I would thank you for your time. I appreciate if you vote against the zoning. Thank you. My sister was going to speak, but I think I took the whole 10 minutes. But she got 55 seconds. Yeah, she can come up. She's a single mom,
Yes,
and she
ma'am.
has a house right behind me.
Yes, ma'am.
That she worked hard for.
I don't know if you'll get through all those papers, though, but you can go ahead
Okay,
and give
good
it
evening. My name is Mara, and I am a single parent of 4 kids, and I live at the dead-end street of the street. And we have had a lot of traffic going in and out at all hours of the night. As like she said, it's been unsafe. But for the past few years, since that other motor home had left, you know, sad to say that it burnt down because I lost a home by fire as well. It's been a lot safer at home to come home at night because I work and I get home at night. And I feel a lot safer now. And also, I work real hard as a single parent at Southeast Hospital, making a little bit of nothing to purchase my home. And I would like for the value to increase, not decrease, if I ever have to sell my home, you know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Collins?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Name is Danny Collins. I stay at 63565 Wardon and Rupert Road in Lacombe. And I was over here in Hudson. I was renting trailers out with the traffic back and forth, which is not true. I mean, the property been sitting there for like almost 10 years, you know. And she talked about, oh, traffic, this and that. But I had a trailer. My daughter was staying in the trailer before the fire. And then what happened, I want to go forward with my zoning case, but what happened, the trailer caught a fire when my daughter was in there. It wasn't no traffic. She had one child in. So now she got 3. She's looking for a place to live. She's staying with me right now, so I told her we're going to put her a place where she can raise her kid. She's a bus driver, and she's struggling, so I'm trying to be there for her to help her out. So it's not all that stuff going on. Excuse me, like talking about it. You know, she's a hard-working young lady, and I'm trying to get her a place where she can raise her 3 kids. And I just want to pull the trailer there. What I had one of that before, I just want to replace it. It's not like it's something new. I mean, something that we just put in here. It's something that's been there before. So she's trying to get started. So I'm trying to help her get started and raise her 3 kids and put the trailer there. It's nothing for rent. I don't know what she's coming up with this rent and stuff. The property been sitting there for 9 years. If I was going to rent it, I could have been rented. It's not a rental place, okay? I had it there for the family in case if they need it. So I'm just trying to appreciate if we can go ahead and help my daughter get a place where she can raise her 3 kids. And I got some pictures of the neighborhood. We have 6 trailers in the neighborhood, okay? And the trailer I had there before, been there for like 30 years. To like one of the first trailers that was in the neighborhood. So they got a trailer behind it. They got one in the front where my brother got, okay? So mine go right behind my brother's trailer. Only thing I just want to do is replace it to help my child. That's it. It's nothing about no renting. And she got 3 kids, 3 babies she's trying to take care of on her own. So I appreciate it if we can go on ahead with this case, with my zoning case, where I came in November the 13th. It's done it for my daughter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like some of that time, sir? Mr. Collins, is there anybody else that would like some of that time? Sure.
I can begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Danielle Hopkins. I'm 27 years old. I'm nervous. But I am Danny's daughter, and he is given the property. He's passing it down to me and his grandkids. I am a bus driver of 6 years of St. Tammany Parish, and if y'all grant this for him to put another modular home in replace of the one that caught on fire, and I was actually pregnant with my first child. So it was no, bad vibes, bad energy, no bad company. I was 19 at the time. So me being pregnant, I wouldn't have, all that around a family. And by me being 27, I have 3 kids. And I will not have the in and out traffic, as she stated. And actually, in the neighborhood, there are other modular homes, trailers, and her house is in the middle of it. They are nice houses back there, bricked. Her house is not bricked. It's like a big double wide, basically. nice house, but it's in the middle of trailers. So her wanting to go against my dad over accusations that she's speculating, I just hope that y'all can grant it for me, because he's giving it to me and the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your Honor, my name is Willie Richardson, to the newly elected official. I just want to speak as a member of the community on behalf of Danny Collins. If you listen to the opening statement of our opposers, she said that she had a trail at once. She had to start somewhere. We only here because she's trying to get a start. I can understand once you get to a certain level, you don't want nobody else to come in. False accusations that up here was what she was given. The first piece of property up front, Mr. Collins does not own. Check the records. And to say you had to call police, you're scared, you feared for your life, or whatever you say. I can make up a story like that, okay? But what I'm saying, as a member of the community, I know Mr. Collins, have known him for years. He will give you the shirt off his back before he charge you for something, okay? His daughter is just trying to make a start. An honest living, an honest pay, a good citizen, paying her taxes, bringing value to the place. If you look at the pictures, those trailers that you're looking at, or modular homes or whatever you want to call it, they are ran down. He's bringing something that's even better than what's there already. Take a look at him, okay? He's not trying to come there and intrude up on the neighbors or doing anything different. He's just trying to support his daughter as a father. Our opposer said kids. Her children are gone, probably. They're grown, okay? There's no kids, not little kids. Miss Danielle have kids who's just getting a fresh start. And we're only here because we're asking that you would have sympathy because of what's going on. If it's something wrong, that's what we have the law for. That's why we call the law, if it's something wrong. But if it's something right, why you can't join in, and as a community, we all get together and raise. Mr. Collins was here on November the 13th, and it was passed. He's not bringing nothing new. He's replacing a trailer, a modular home that burnt down. He's not bringing something new. He's not changing the fabric of the property. He's not changing any of that. Only thing he's doing is replacing what he couldn't replace at the time that it burned down. So I ask that you all will understand this is a young lady who's trying to start out. Our opponent said already she had a trailer, she had a modular home, she had started out. Since then, have moved on. However, still have a modular home pulled to the side of her home, okay? So it's still there, or it's replaced. They have one there. Take a look at the pictures they have all around. He's not doing anything different. It was approved before. He's just asking you to relook at it, understand what is state here. We have a family, we have 3 children, and as a community, we all join in together. I would love to walk over and, hey, invite you over, you know, sit down and drink some coffee. Talk about it. If I'm doing something wrong, tell me. We're not here to fight with each other. We're here to build with each other. And that's what this community was built upon, the fabric of helping each other. That's all I got to say. Please understand what's at stake here. 3 children, a single mom, trying to start where our opponents once started. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll go to 3-minute rebuttal. Ms. Paula?
Thank you. I'm not sure who that fellow was, but I've never seen him. And I'm not sure how he can say who lives in my home, because I do have a 16-year-old who attends Mandeville High. He's a junior. And I have a 20-year-old. Now, my 20-year-old doesn't live there. He's 20. But my 16-year-old still live there. I do not have a trailer in the back of my home because the one that I did, the parish told me I had to move it out. So I have an acre of land. So yes, I do have a shed on the back of my property. And then my sister lives in the house over on the side. Now, there's a trailer all the way in the back. That's the one I was telling you about that someone sold, and they rented it out. My home, if you want me to pass it, I do have a picture of my home. I do not live in a double wide. It was built from ground up. So I'm not sure what he's saying. And how can he say, or anybody say, what we've been, like I'm telling a story, like to say what we've been through all this? It has not been easy dealing with him renting out to people. Now, that trailer that he's saying that his daughter lived in, no one lived in that trailer. No one lived in that front trailer when it burned down. No one wasn't living there. I bought my property in 1986. I moved there in 1987. When I moved there, no one lived there. My sister didn't even live there. I had my brother-in-law that lived 4 acres over, and that other trailer that other lot was empty. Joseph Ziegler is the person that sold each acre. Either he sold you 1 acre or 2. He did not sell a half acre to anyone. If your property got split up, that's because you split it up on your own. Now, I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm not saying that I'm not trying to give anybody a fresh start, but I'm trying to upgrade my neighborhood. Well, I would like my neighborhood to be upgraded. And everyone that came in that neighborhood in the last 5 years or more has built a house. They were unable to bring in any type of trailer or anything because of the zoning. And that has upgraded our neighborhood. Like if I wanted to sell my house, I could probably sell it at a better price if I didn't have just rentals there. Right now, on that front property, yes, there's someone living there. Don't say you're not renting out your property and you are renting out your property. That is telling a story. Admit that you're renting out property to people, and it is unsafe for me, my husband, my kids. Well, like I said, I have a 20-year-old, I have a 16 over there right now. And don't say I don't have any kids living there. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you, Ms. Powell. Mr. Collins. 3.
Yes, sir. She keeps saying I'm out on the property in the front. This is the map right here of the property. My property's in the back. My brother's in the front. There are 2 pieces of property. She keeps saying that's my house in the front. It's not mine. My property, I don't have anything. I still on 6th Street, 565 Ordon and Rupert Road. That's my house. This was where I was staying at first. I brought a double wide, a modular home, and I put it on my property on Ordon Rupert Road. I was staying here first. When I moved from here, I let my daughter stay here when she got older. And you know how it is when you want your kids out the house, So I told my daughter to stay there on the property. Then the house qualified. I don't want to live with my kids. I love them to death, but they need their own place. I'm trying to show her responsibility. So that's why I kept the property. They wanted to buy my property before. I told them nothing for sale. I have children, you know what I'm saying? When the kids need a place to stay, you sell your property, then you got to bring them back to your house. So that's why I kept my land for. So, and I told my daughter, I said, I get old, anybody getting a jam, I take my property. I said, you should go there and get started like I did, So that's why I'm not selling it. I want to keep it for my kids. And she got 3 kids. And I want her to raise her kids on her own. Like I said, I've been a bus driver for 32 years. I don't know what she's getting, like I'm the kind of violent person. My daughter, I got her driving bus. She got 5 years, going on 6 years. She's making a great start. It's a good job, you know what I'm saying? I don't go out there, I don't drink, I don't go out nowhere. So my child is just like me. I told her she started young, she's a bus driver, raised a kid like I did her, You know, as a single parent, I did that myself, and I raised my children. She's driving bus. You got to be clean to drive a school bus. You ain't driving nobody's kid if you messed up. You know what I'm saying? She said, "Oh yeah, you this and that." Look, like I said, 32 years. I'm not a bad person. I'm still driving bus yet. Okay.
Oh, that's going.
My daughter done the same thing, and the only thing I said, if she's getting started, I just want her to do her best. You know. And like I said, the property right here, it's 2 pieces right here. She keeps saying my property in the front. I don't have anything to do with the front piece of property. I cut the grass there to my brother. He's sick. He had like some kind of cancer on his side, so he's wearing a bag. So I take care of his property for him. The other guy that's living in his trailer, he was going through a divorce. We not getting a quarter for that. He stayed there for free. He's like a friend of ours. He was going through a divorce. The trailer was sitting there with nobody staying in it. There's not a rental place. He don't have any kids. He's in there by himself. He get a divorce settled between him and his wife, and then he's getting out of there. It's nothing I got is for rent. That's why I work every day. I don't want to rent anything. Renting is horrible. I'm quite sure everybody know that. You don't get paid for that. Only thing is a headache. I don't want it. That's why my property sit there empty all these years. If I want to rent a place, I would have been had something out there years ago. She needs to stop saying rental, because rental is not nowhere in me, okay?
Thank you, sir. Okay. We'll go to the conclusion. Any discussion from anything from the council? Jimmy? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to bring a little bit of my experience from planning and zoning on this one. You know, I know this area very well. I live in Lacombe, and the areas from Fish Hatchery Road all the way to 190 on North Pontchartrain, there are quite a few manufactured homes, mobile homes, not trailers, and that. I went down to Tower Lane and looked it over, and there's at least 3 on Tower Lane itself. Also one adjacent on the south side of North Pontchartrain. With that being said, I'll make a motion to concur with the zoning commission's approval.
Second by who? Mr. T.J. Smith? Mr. Stefancic, did you want to say anything, sir?
I have a question to the, well, I hate to say to the new planning guy, but somebody needs to answer this. If they had a trailer there with the power cut off for over a year, how did they get back in without getting approval of the parish? I don't know that they know that, but you have to go back and get, CLECO's not supposed to hook up any electricity once the power has been off for 6 months.
Gotcha. Well, Ms. Lambert would probably be the only one at the present time from the previous administration that might be able to answer that question.
I got an out.
Yeah. Miss Lambert?
Ms. Lambert, please.
See, the trailer burned.
It's on, Ross, it's on. Get closer to it.
I can make a comment.
Replace it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
I'm not aware that there was a mobile home. If I'm not mistaken, the mobile home was completely removed from the property or was, caught on fire. So I'm not exactly, are you referring to an adjacent piece of property in regards to the reconnection?
No, I'm referring to the trailer that caught fire and they moved out of it. They said it was vacant for a year. I'm just curious as to how they got the power turned back on to a trailer that had been burned out.
Once it burned down, I'm not aware that the power was reconnected after.
You can't replace a trailer if you're zoned that way, though. They would have had to come in for a rezoning request too, right?
You have 6 months to replace a mobile home if it's destroyed at more than 50%.
And they didn't. It stayed vacant for a year.
Correct, and that's the reason why they're back here, but it's been removed, yes.
So this is the trailer that they're talking about that burned out.
So they want to replace it, but it was removed at some point.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. We had a motion by Mr. Davis and a second. What's that, Ben? Okay. All done talking.
Jimmy wants to know.
Jimmy, you want to say something else? I'm sorry.
I'd like to now move to introduce the ordinance calendar 6292.
We have to
Oh,
vote
we
first,
didn't
yeah.
vote yet. Okay, sorry.
I'll come right back to you.
I'll call for the vote.
Okay. All right, please vote.
Very enthusiastic.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Mr. Davis, please go ahead.
I'd like to move into motion the introduction of ordinance calendar 6292.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Dean.
That's all.
Thank you. All righty. Number 4. Vicky Curette appealing the zoning commission approval on December 3rd, 2019 to rezone 58.970 acres located west of Highway 1090, north of Interstate 10 and east of Interstate 59 Slidell from A-5 two-family residential district to PUD Plan Unit Development Overlay, Ward 8, District 9. Ms. Vicky, I'm assuming?
Indeed it is. Vicki Pruitt, 60234 Jacob Road, Slidell.
Yes, ma'am, you go right ahead.
My reason for the appeal on this was a concern for drainage and a concern for a liability that the subdivision might place on my acreage that butts up against the west end of the property here. According to the way that it was first filed, it states that it was undeveloped land that butts up next to it. It is not undeveloped land, it's my home. Mr. Shane and Mr. Smith and I have met and ironed out some of the details here. They have agreed to put up a fence between the property, a privacy fence, and he has agreed to deal with the drainage at the northwest corner of his property. I guess you guys have got this too, yeah. So he has solved both of my issues as long as all of this goes on the subdivision covenants and it becomes your agreement with him, not with me.
Mhm.
Is that the way that works?
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Shane?
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Pruitt, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent Lynn Levy Land Company, which is the petitioner in this case. I appreciate Ms. Pruitt's comments. After the Zoning Commission recommendation to approve this PUD, we held a meeting at Mr. Burke's, J.B. Burke's office on December 19th that was attended by then Councilman Belisario, then Councilman-elect Mike Smith, Ms. Pruitt, my clients, my engineer, and myself. We understood or listened to Ms. Pruitt's concerns. We agree that there need to be remedies for those concerns. The amended PUD plan that I have given you this evening, and I believe that one has gone to Madam Clerk as well, because I'd like to amend my application this evening so that the amended PUD plan would be substituted for the PUD plan that was considered at the Zoning Commission level. Forgive me for giving you, at least those of you whose eyes are no better than mine, such small print on the drawing that you have. The larger plats obviously are easier to read, but I have yellowed the areas where it's changed, and I have cheated and gotten a larger print so that I can read to you the two notes. I'd like to read them into the record because they directly respond to Ms. Pruitt's concerns. The two notes to the left of the plat, which are yellowed, read that number one, the developer shall erect and maintain a 6-foot wooden fence along and or inside the entire western boundary of the subdivision, said obligation to be assigned to the homeowners association at a later date.
The second item says, if necessary, drainage entering the subdivision at the northwest corner will be subsurface, but only to the extent necessary to allow the 6-foot fence to extend to the northwest corner. With those additions in response to Ms. Pruitt's concerns, we think our PUD plan is in good order. As it relates to these conditions going forward, if these in fact are conditions of the PUD plan, as you know, it will be our obligation to only use the property if in fact we maintain all of the things on the PUD plan, and in particular, the two things that I've just read. We also, of course, will come back to the Planning Commission and perhaps ultimately to you through the planning process, in particular for preliminary subdivision approval, where again, these conditions will be, if you will, put into the record. And ultimately, they will be on the final subdivision of plat, assuming this subdivision gets through the Planning Commission process and the subdivision is built. So I appreciate the cooperation extended by the ex-Councilman Belisario, Councilman Smith, certainly Ms. Pruitt's concerns, and hopefully you're in a position to concur, but also approve the amended PUD plan that I have submitted into the record this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith. Yes, sir. I'll get you, though. I got it. You got it, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to thank all the parties involved. If they all go like this, it'll be a good 4 years. Ms. Pruitt missed out. She should have been a politician. Would have gotten everything she wanted, and everybody would have been smiling. I think the developers negotiated in good faith. I think this is a good thing going forward, unless anybody has any objections or questions on the council. I'd like to go ahead and move to concur with the amended. Okay. With the substitute plan, the amended substitute plan.
Second. Smith, Mike Smith. Anyway, I'm just going to call you Mr. Smith. How's that? And second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Smith.
No, not adopt, introduce.
Introduce.
Thank you.
For adoption.
Mr. Mike Smith, second by Mr. Canulette. Thank you. Okay, we need to go, I think we need to go back to Mr. Jimmy Davis issue. Colin?
Yep, we forgot to take Mr. Davis's ordinance off the table. If y'all remember, we tabled it earlier.
Okay.
So we just need Mr. Davis to make a motion to take it off the table and vote, and then we can reintroduce it.
To take it off the table.
Perfect. Second by Ms. Casavant.
Please vote.
Yep.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay. Reintroduce. Yes. Yeah.
Introduce ordinance calendar 6292.
Okay, motion by Mr. Davis, second by Ms. Casavant. Thank you. Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Ordinance for adoption, number 1, ordinance calendar number 6244, ordinance amending parish code relative to permit use in HC-3 to add new permit use cemeteries. Mr. Aaron.
Move to adopt ordinance number 6244.
Motion by Mr. Aaron to adopt, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Number 2, ordinance calendar number 6286, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.17 acres from A-4 to A-4 in MHO, Ward 10, District 6. Mr. Tanner's not here. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Motion by David, second by Ms. Casabon. Don't pay attention to record, just listen. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Number 3, ordinance calendar number 6287, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.397 acres from A-2 to A-4 in MHO, Ward 2, District 3. Ms. Casabon? Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 4, ordinance calendar number 6289, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.794 acres from A-1 to A-3, Ward 4, District 4. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulet. Please vote. That's mine. That's mine.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 5, ordinance calendar number 6290, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 6.05 acres from A-1 RO and MHO to A-2 RO MHO, Ward 2, District 3. Ms. Casabon. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 6, ordinance calendar number 6291, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 10.92 acres from A-1 RO and MHO to A-2 Suburban District RO Rural Overlay and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay Ward 2 District 3. Ms. Casabon. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
Mr. Davis, please vote. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 7, ordinance calendar number 6293, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 8.0369 acres from A-1, A-1 in RO, Ward 1, District 3. Ms. Casabon. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Davis. Please vote.
Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 8, ordinance calendar number 6294, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 9.52 acres from A-1 and MHO to A-1A, A-2 and MHO, Ward 2, District 3. Ms. Casabon. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Airy. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 9, ordinance calendar number 6295, ordinance amending official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.01 acres from PF-1 to A-1 in RO Ward 3. And once again, Ms. Casabon. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Davis. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 10, ordinance calendar number 6296, ordinance to abolish parish sub-drainage district number 1 of gravity district number 3, Ward 8, District 8. Mr. Canulet.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
So while y'all are voting, let me say this. We're actually abolishing a sub-drainage district. I think that's the first time in the history of the parish. There you go. But what a great job the residents and that board did to take the problem and work it and tax themselves and get it resolved. So we're going to bring them up for a little more later.
Great.
Really good work.
Great.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 6297, ordinance to amend the parish code to add new section providing for operation of motorized vehicles and enforcement of traffic control, Ward 4, District 4. Motion by Mr. Stavancic, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote.
Yes.
With a verbal vote from Mr. Canulet, motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 12, ordinance calendar number 6298, ordinance revoking dedication of an unopened drainage servitude, Ward 10, District 6. Mr. Tanner, motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Davis. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 13, ordinance calendar number 6299, ordinance to amend the parish code of ordinance to amend code enforcement procedures. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Motion, number 14, ordinance calendar number 6300, ordinance to correct the road drainage inventory, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner, motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 15, ordinance calendar number 6301, ordinance to correct the road drainage district inventory, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. O'Brien. Please vote. I like to get Steve mad. Payback's a hell.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 16, ordinance calendar number 6302, ordinance to correct the road drainage inventory, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote.
Mr. TJ Smith? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 17, ordinance calendar number 6303, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget, amendment number 2. Motion by Mr. Stavancic, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All righty, okay. We'll go to the off the floor items. I need a motion and a second to pull some items off the floor. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Canulette. Yes, sir. What? Yeah, you vote each one. No, I have to open it first. Goddammit. Just pay attention. Please vote.
Mr. Lorino, Mr. TJ
I
Smith.
forgot to vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right. All right, number one, resolution to amend ordinance CS number 19-4179 to make changes to the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets. Ms. Casabon? Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, Mr. TJ Smith.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, I didn't see it. You go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, since this is off the floor, I didn't have the benefit of knowing, just a little explanation on this. Resolution, if Leslie could provide it for us, Mr. Chairman.
Can't get out of the.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
We got you.
The resolution to amend the budget is to add $45,000 to a project that we have going on right now on Bootlegger Road, Recreation District 14 at Coquille Park. We'll be reimbursing the parish for a turn lane into the park, and this will amend the budget so that we can do a change order with our contractor to perform the work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The $45,000 is an estimate, and the second item on the off-the-floor agenda is the authorization to enter into a CEA with the Recreation District 14, and it calls for them to pay for any cost, estimated at $45,000.
The vote was unanimous with
We did number
one
one.
absent.
Yeah. Okay, we got number one's finished, Therese? Okay, number two, resolution to acknowledge the authority of parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Parish Recreation District number 14, Ward 1, District 3. Is that the one you were just speaking about?
Yes, sir.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith, did you hear that one? Okay, I just want to make sure. Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
Mr. Lorino. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number three, resolution to acknowledge and confirm the President's appointment of Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Operations. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, I have the honor of appointing Mr. Clarence Poe, 26 years Army, retired, Sergeant First Class, 17 years with St. Tammany Parish government, serving as Assistant Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Operations. Very proud to appoint Clarence, who has served our parish well and can step into the shoes of the director position with the retirement of Mr. Dexter Cardo. So with your confirmation, Clarence will take charge for our emergencies from here until he's ready to give it up. And I don't think he's ready.
Which we won't have any at all for
No,
a
we're not, no
long
emergencies.
time.
No
Right,
emergencies
that's right,
coming.
That's right. All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Stravinsky, and you have a question. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I've worked with
I got you,
Clarence quite a bit. I've worked on the emergency operations group, and he has been the leader of that group for the last, 4 years now, Clarence? And does an excellent job in making sure of protecting this parish, not only in times of what we look at as hurricanes and stuff like that, but the thing that the group we're working is one that takes care of all hazard potentials in this parish, no matter where they are. And he is well versed in all that and up to speed on it, and I think you got a good selection there, Mike.
Great. TJ Smith, did you have something, sir?
No, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Number 4, ordinance to amend Parish Code, Chapter 125, Subdivision Regulation to delete 125-197E8. Mr. Taladano.
I'm sorry. Yeah, motion to introduce. Thank you very much.
What are you doing?
I was trying to ask Ms. Long a question when you interrupted me.
Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. No vote. Okay, introduction only, I'm sorry. I see it. All right. Number 5, resolution to appoint Mr. Paul Barcelona to fill a vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Taladano.
Mr. Lorino, let me just say this for the record. It actually contained a clerical error. It makes reference to replacing Mr. Loren. This is actually to fill one of the vacancies. We have, the parish council now has 2 appointments. Mr. Cooper, President Cooper, has 2 also. So this is to fill one of the 2 vacancies that we have at our right to do so, but it is not to replace Mr. Loren. It was to fill one of the vacancies. Mr. Barcelona, I think most people know him well. Paul's an engineer, been very active in this community, very active in following developmental projects and those and planning and zoning issues. I'm very pleased to nominate him for that position.
Okay, Mr. Bender, second. Okay, please vote. Yes, sir.
Move that we, I would move that we do an immediate appointment. I'm sorry, it's a parish-wide appointment. We need to suspend the rules to adopt it.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Taladano, second by Mr. Bender. Thank you. There you go. We got one more coming for you. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, now, do I have to close, do I have to? I'm talking to I'm sorry, what's that, right?
You don't have to.
Okay, I don't have to,
close. You
okay,
just
I
ask
can
if
just
anyone
go.
else has off the floor. Yes.
Okay, does anyone else have anything to bring up off the floor? Mr. Dean? Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Todd Richard. Mr. Richard is on the Planning and Zoning Commission right now, but was an appointment from President Brister, ex-President Brister. And I spoke to him, asked him if he would come in and step in where Pug Lauren was, so he said he would. So I'd like to make a motion to put him in that spot.
We have a motion by Mr. Dean. Suspend the yes.
Suspend the rules and adopt too, I'm sorry.
Motion by Mr. Dean to suspend, second by Ms. Casabon. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. The first one's going to be a vote to hear it off the floor. So it'll be a motion by Mr. Dean, second by Ms. Casabon. So please vote.
Mr. TJ Smith? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, then I have motion to suspend by Mr. Dean, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Excuse me.
I apologize, Mr. Stefancic, I hit my button too quickly.
Definitely need to get Todd back on.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulette to adjourn. Thank you.